Welcome, everybody. We are ready to get going here for the 100% League. We are in Imola then tonight, then round 5 of the shorter Imola season, 100% season. And of course, we are ready to get going here in this historic circuit, of course, back from across the pond after Miami last week. And now ready to get going here, or almost ready to get going here. Just waiting for one more person to jump into the session, and we can get ourselves started then for the 5th round of the third 100% season, the 4th of the event league, of course. Then, so looking forward to this one. Then, currently in the standings, then Gordo leads the way. Then he is returned tonight. Then after missing Miami, he is now back in the Aston Martin. Then looking forward to seeing what he can do. As we're just waiting, like I said, for one more driver to get themselves into the lobby. And we will wait and see if he can get himself sorted and ready to race then. But it doesn't look like it, so we'll have to just crack on as it is then and get started for this one as well then. But looking forward to seeing what this one's going to be unfolding here tonight then. 63 laps of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And there we go then. We will just get ourselves started and we will get cracking then very shortly. But just waiting for the one more driver then, but he seems to be having a few problems then. But we will get cracking then nonetheless. Then we will start off at exactly 1/2 past. It looks like. Just letting all the drivers in. Good luck all then to all the drivers in. Bear me 1 second, just trying to get the Discord sorted as well then. We are ready to crack on then. Good stuff indeed then. I need to get the stream up as well then, but we will get ourselves cracking then very shortly. Just wait for the countdown to start, and then we'll be underway then. Yeah, pardon me 1 second. So just waiting for the countdown. There it is. Right then, 19 drivers. Unfortunately, one driver then having a few technical difficulties, so he will either not join or join in the qualifying. We'll have to wait and see. But we will have to find out then as we get the timer then ticking away and getting ourselves ready then for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Like I was saying, it has been a fantastic start of the season. In the first 4 rounds, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. First 4 rounds have been pretty epic stuff indeed. Looking forward to an epic 5th round here in Imola. So there we are then, loading in now then, just getting ourselves sorted, and we can crack on then with this Grand Prix finally. There we are. That we're looking forward to what is going to be an epic race indeed. And Ginger Age then looking for some more points this race after scoring his first points of the season last week in Miami. Looking forward to seeing if he can get some points on the board once again. Then we will find out then in about 2 or less than 2 hours time now. There we are then. We'll get the stream up then, and we can see what is cracking on here then. Young Lights has said, good luck tonight. Evening, Alex, and everyone from Rocket League as well. Ginger Age has put a carrot into the comment section as well then, so that is promising stuff indeed then. There's a carrot in the comments, and Ginger Age has got a baby carrot then raging then around this Imola circuit then. Looking forward to that indeed. As here we go then. We will have to firstly find out if it's going to be raining or sunny, or sunshine, or whatever it's called. It looks like it's a bit overcast here, to be fair, but we will get ourselves loaded in then for the qualifying of round 5 here in Imola then tonight then. 18 minutes, 17 minutes almost of qualifying of this for this event then, and we will get ourselves rolling then in just a jiffy then. Unfortunately, it's X Gamer then who's in the hash then, who's had a problem then with his I don't know, but he has not joined us yet, so hopefully we can get that sorted. Rain in the race, says Ginger Rage. So that is not looking good then for Ginger Rage, and he is probably very scared of the rain. Although it's been very hot here in the UK, so hopefully a bit of rain then will make us feel better, make us feel cooler. That is, because it's very hot in here indeed, and I am going to be roasting for the next 2 hours or so. We have got a man on track already then. That is Dark Shadow, who is of course Kia. He is unfortunately racing on a different PSN tonight then because of some sort of issues as well, but he's got himself sorted and into the lobby at least. So he has taken to the track then in the Aston Martin, then another Aston Martin, car number 5 then. So it seems like Aston Martin and car number 5 are tied together then. They're associated with each other then, the car number 5 and the Aston Martin in the green machine. Yeah, of course we saw Jay Hings and Gordo in silver then, both racing with car number 5 as well then. So that is why I keep bringing that up. But through the Aqua Minerale section then, and away we go then for the first laps then of qualifying, of course setting the grid for the 63 laps to unfold here as well then. Looking forward to seeing how the race is going to unfold, but of course we've got to see what qualifying is going to unfold in front of us very first indeed, because of course we have to do the qualifying before the race. Here comes Kia then to start us off then into the second Ravazza then, to start off the first flying lap of the session tonight then. 16 minutes of qualifying remain, and away goes the first driver then in the Aston Martin, then looking to set the first time on the board. He's on the medium compound tyres. A few cars coming out of the pit lane here as well, then making sure they don't get in the way of this charging Aston Martin, who has gone through the first chicane very nicely indeed. Then there is a Williams then just getting out of the way off the circuit, off the racing line then. Vintage has gifted the membership then. Fantastic from Vintage. What a legend is Vintage, and of course he has got himself a very nice new car as well then, a new number plate with ALR on it. But of course it is a coincidence that ALR is his initials, not just supporting just the league, but supporting his himself. I'm not quite sure, but he has done a good job then with a nice brand new car. Let's see what he can can do then in the Red Bull here tonight then as well for this Grand Prix. Looking forward to seeing what Vintage can do then. Thank you very much to Vintage then, our top subscriber, our top supporter then of the channel then. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Gordo has claimed that membership as well then from the lovely Vintage, so thank you very much then for Vintage, who is putting in his hard-earned dosh then, and it all goes back into the league then to improve the racing experience, hopefully, and every other thing that we can do in terms of trophies and awards and all sorts of stuff like that. But yes, into the pits comes Dark Shadow. He's abandoned his time then, so we won't ride on board with the Dark Shadow, unfortunately. We'll have to find a Mercedes. I think it's a Mercedes of Ginner then. Ginner is coming over the line, and yes, he has done a 15.3 then for the Mercedes driver. Then first driver to set a time in the session. Then Sick as Muck is on track as well. We've got more drivers. I think Young Light's coming up to the line then in the Kick Sauber. Then let's see what he can do. Then it's a 15.6, I should say, then for the Kick Sauber driver. Then good stuff indeed. Then Kiki on track as well. Equaz then coming through the first chicane. Very nicely done indeed. Then Ginger Age not out on circuit yet. That's very terrifying indeed. Then I'm sure it's more terrifying when he comes out on circuit for all the other 18 drivers at this point. But there we go then. Mumford just starting off another lap. Then here comes Kamara racing then up to the line. And can he race up to the line? Can he get himself on pole position is the question. Then up to the line, it's a 15.6 as well. Then puts himself P3 for the time being. Then Sick as Muck's on a 16.4 in the Ferrari. Then he's currently P4 as it stands. But here comes Kiki. Kiki up to the line. That's a 28.5. I'm not sure that's competitive from Kiki. He might be on a second lap here. Where are the Williams pair then? Through Aqua Minerale goes Equaz. Then where is his teammate? I think Cooper's a bit further ahead then. Yes, he is through the final chicane. And heading down the hill now towards the first of the Ravazzas, which is my fantastic Italian accent then coming out there. I'm sure that's wrong. Oh dear, going a bit wide then for Coop then, and that has invalidated his time then, unfortunately for him. Then let's see what his teammate's up to then. No invalidations for Equaz. Then he comes around the second Ravazza, then ERS light flashing away then up to the line. What's it going to be? It's a 15.6 as well then, so a lot of 15.6s tumbling in here, as Ginner has done a 15.3 on the medium compound tires. I didn't notice that. That was pretty good stuff indeed then from the current pole sitter. Then Young Lights on the front row of the grid as well then in the Kick Sauber, then looking strong. Equaz and Kamara Racer make up the second row. Sick as Muck and Kiki currently make up the third row, but of course Kiki is on a 28.5, so I'm not sure he will stay there that long, as Mumford has jumped up to a 15.7 on the medium compound tyres, his second run in qualifying as well. Then here comes Kiki then through. Oh, he's invalidated as well, same place as Coop then, and unfortunately has to abandon the time. Oh, he's going to carry on though. He has done a 14.9. That would have been the fastest time of the session so far then, but unfortunately not good enough then in this qualifying, with that invalidation then on the final couple of corners. And Legend then has started off his lap in the Kick Sauber, then flying through the first chicane then, and heading towards the lovely Tozer corner, which of course is not this one, it's another chicane to negotiate here, but then into the Tozer corner then, which is where we saw a few shenanigans then in the real life Grand Prix over the last few seasons or so, as over through into Sector 2 we go now. Purple of course in Sector 1, looking promising indeed. Then here comes Legend. Then Gordo has said good luck folks as well then, and hola, almost the same sort of region in the world as we are here, but not quite. I think it's Buongiorno. I'm going to say that as completely wrong probably, isn't it? But I think it's Buongiorno in Italian. But there we go. Then through the chicane then, and unfortunately Legend has invalidated his time. Dark Shadow is back on track then. Soft compound tyres this time on the Aston Martin. And flying through there, let's see what he can do then. Kiki then is still out on track then. He is doing a bit of a race run, I think, on those soft compound tyres, but that feel like flashing away now indicates I think it's coming back to the pit lane soon. So let's have a look and see what Dark Shadow is up to. Ginger Age has started off a lap as well then, so goodness me, watch out everyone on track. Then here comes Ginger Age, but we'll stay on board with Dark Shadow for the time being. Then he is further along in Sector 2, and now coming down towards the Aqua Minerale complex of corners as well, then negotiating it. Oh, he's gone wide there. Goodness me, that was invalidation from the Dark Ages. That was Dark Shadows ages, but he has got it himself, unfortunately, an invalidation there as well. Then have to come back to the pit lane. Ginger Rage has invalidated as well. Then goodness me, Ginger Rage not having a great time on his first outing in qualifying, but there is still time on the board for the Ginger Rage to get himself a lap time in this session. Then let's see what he can do. Then I think Legend then is harvesting some energy. Then he's coming back to the box. I think then is the other Kick Sauber. Then Young Lux is on an outlap then, but he's currently on the front row of the grid, so it's not too bad for him. Here comes Dark Shadow, I think, starting off another lap here as well, and so he's got enough fuel, he's got enough energy then on board to go again. Then Moomin is on track as well. Then let's see what the Ferrari driver can do here tonight into the third sector. Purple in sector 2. That is looking promising stuff indeed through the chicane as well then, and he has kept it valid, which is unlike a lot of other drivers we've seen already, but unfortunately, so far so good then. So unfortunately for those drivers, of course, that is. So far so good then for a Moomin as well then into the first Ravazza, keeping it within track limits as well then very nicely, and very much in track limits then as well then onto the final quarter as well. Then here he comes up to the line then. It's a 15.9, puts himself P6 then ahead of his teammate by 13 thousandths of a second as well then from Sicker's Muck. Sicker's Muck then has just finished a lap as well then, so he's going to be looking quite strong then for Ferrari then, P6 and P5 as it stands. Both of them looking very good here as well. Then we've got an Aston Martin coming round, and I think it is Dark Shadow again. This time he is on a valid lap, I should say, coming through the final chicane then, making sure he's in the track limits, unfortunately going wide then, and that has cost him again, unfortunately, this time. As somebody with a very, very large appendage has gone past my window, but there we go then. Right, out in front we got a Williams then back on track. It's Ekbaz then who's just starting off another lap then. There's a Mercedes behind him. It's Jinner then. Jinner coming through the first Ravazza then, keeping just within that track limits as well. Then same for the second Ravazza, but here he comes up to the line. What's it going to be then from Jinner then? It's a 15.1 then, improves by 0.2 of a second, almost then to get himself further into that contention for pole position here. Unfortunately for Young Lights, he's invalidated this time, so he is done and dusted in qualifying. Well, not qualifying, he's done and dusted on this lap, I should say then. We've got more, many more coming up to the line then. Let's see what Ginger Rage is up to this time. Ginger Rage up into P8, a 17.1 then for the Ginger. Unfortunately, he's a bit far off the top 7 as it stands there, but he has got himself a time on the board nonetheless then, which is good stuff indeed then. Legend back in the pit lane. Kiki just starting off another lap here as well then. Gordo coming through into sector 3, unfortunately invalidating going over the curbs there, and that is costly indeed then. Vintage just starting a lap as well for the Red Bull team. Good stuff indeed. Ginger Rage cruising back to the pit lane now. Mumford then unfortunately has invalidated as well. We've got to see quite a few invalidations around here, especially over the chicanes, and there's so much room for error through the chicanes in this track as well. And so we'll have to wait and see if everyone can get themselves through in a valid way within track limits, I should say. That's probably the best way to talk about it. Vessia says possible rain in the race. I think the weather is glitched then. If you go onto the race tab, the first tab then, before it says 5 minutes, then the first tab is what the start of the race will be. So if it says there will be lots of rain, it will say that there's intermediates, or it will say if it's sunny, then it will be a dry start. So that's how you can tell then what the weather is doing at the start of the race. Here comes Kiki up to the line. Then it's Kamara Racer up to the line. Sorry, P2 then for Kamara, then onto the front row of the grid. Then a 15.294, 10th or so away then from pole position, but not so much now then, because Kiki has crossed the line with a 14.898 and taken that pole position away from Jenner then by 0.2 of a second as well then. Fantastic from the Racing Bull driver. He's not had the luck in the Grand Prix. He needs to turn that around then, but he's doing fantastic in qualifying. Can he turn it around here tonight then? Mumford in the Haas then is back on track then in sector 2. We'll come back to him as Vintage has jumped up the order then into the 17s as well. 17.1 for him, just ahead of Ginger Age, then into the top 9 for the Red Bull driver then. Good stuff indeed. Where is Gordo? Then Gordo has unfortunately invalidated again then, this time on the I think the same set of soft compound tyres, so it's not going too well then for Gordo. Then he's just going to try and start off another lap here, I think. Coming through the second Ravazza then in the Aston Martin, and back underway he goes. Good stuff indeed. Then here comes Mumford down the hill towards the first Ravazza. Then 6 minutes left of qualifying here as Mumford then in the Haas, negotiating the first, negotiating the second Ravazza then, and powering to the... No, he's not. He's powering to the pit lane then instead, abandoning his time. And by the way, the gentleman with his large appendage that went past the window with me says Ginger Rage. Ah, right, okay. You're doing two things at once, are you then, sir? But yes, that's very nice indeed. I will be, well, give you a call after the race then. So, good stuff. Gordo is back on track this time. It's kept it valid, sorry, into the first sector. Into the second sector we go now. Aqua Minerale, the next challenge then for the Aston Martin driver. Let's see how he fares as he comes through the next right-hander. Then up the hill we go now, and he has done that very nicely indeed then. It looks very smooth then for the Aston Martin, this time purple in sector Sector 2 very briefly, though, and it's got away very quickly as well then through the third chicane, and the final chicane then, and he has kept it within track limits, which is all you could ask for through there. And now down the hill then, he seems to be going a bit slower here. No, maybe I think he's just maybe just the camera angle into these, oh goodness me, he's lost control of the car almost then and kept it in control, but unfortunately has gone over the line then, invalidating on that run then. 15.4 would have put him onto the second row of the grid then, just ahead of Young Lights as it stands then, but unfortunately could not keep it within track limits then. Here comes his teammate then, Dark Shadow Kia I should say, into the final chicane as well, then keeping it out, though unfortunately not. Goodness me, it seems like that chicane is going to be very costly indeed then tonight. But of course, there is we've had some sort of issues then with track limits around here, so we've got, of course, everybody on alert then to get their races recorded, and of course to get their race directors put into the tickets if there's any issues with penalties, that sort of thing. Of course, here comes Coop then. Coop, as I was going to say, looking to put a valid lap together, but unfortunately not through that chicane. Once again being caught out then by that final chicane as well. Then it seems to be catching quite a few people out here, but if you can get through there validly, then you can get yourself a very good lap time on the board. Then here comes Equaz. Where is Jinner? Then Jinner is coming through behind Equaz, then will stay on board with the Williams driver then as we come through into Sector 3. 1.5 improvement so far then for Equaz as we come through the final chicane. This time he has got himself validly through there, or he's one of the few drivers who've made it through there validly, I should say. But here comes Equaz now down the hill towards the first Ravazza, and making sure he keeps it within track limits there. Then can he do the same then at the second? Yes, he can, and powering to the line. This time he's going to the finish line, and up to the line it's a 15.4 then, 1.68 improvement, 1.6 tenths I should say improvement, up into P4 then, second row of the grid. And for him, Jinner has improved as well, I think. Yes, he has then. He's improved into a 14.9, but it's not close enough just yet then for that pole position to Kiki, who is quite comfortable out there as it stands then. Mumford starting off another lap then. Away he goes then in the Haas then. Let's see what the Aston Martins are up to. Then Gordo invalidating once again then. And again, seems to be doing a bit of a race run out there. Dark Shadow or Kia, I'm just going to call him Kia. Kia then has started off another lap as well, then back onto a valid lap this time, and away he goes then for his next attempt as well. Then Kamara Racer is back on circuit, coming through into Sector 1, flying through in Sector 1 then. A bit of rain then would be nice, says Gordo, and there we are then. So that is what Gordo is hoping for, a bit of rain then later on. And that is what's going on out there. Kamara Racer then into Sector 2 then. Let's see what the Kamara can do then. Can he get himself onto pole position? Can he rival his teammate then for that top step then? Just about keeping it within track limits there as well. That was very close indeed then for the Racing Bull driver then through into the Aqua Minerale complex, and unfortunately going over the curbs then on the exit then, and that has been very costly indeed. I've got sweat dripping down my back. And yes, it's not as sexy as it sounds. So there we go. Mumford unfortunately has invalidated. He is nearly parked almost at the exit of the chicane there. Needs to make sure he gets out of the way then of the Kick Sauber car coming through, which is Young Lights. Then Young Lights is coming down the hill then. No, yeah, where is he? Goodness me, I'm not sure what is going on. Then Young Lights is both the Kick Saubers, and Mumford is involved as well. And there's an Aston Martin of Dark Shadow or Kia coming up to the back of them. Then he's going to start off. He's going to get himself a lap on the board this time at 18.4. Then puts himself P11 for the time being. Brilliant stuff indeed. Then Legend then is which one is Legend then? I think Legend is Legend was giving a tow then, I think, to Young Lights there into the first corner, into the first chicane. Then Kamara Racer has retired, I should say, in the pit lane then, so he is done and dusted in qualifying here. Gordo is just going out of the way then of an Alpine, and I think that might be an Alpine of Farf then. Farf just going to start off his lap then. Equaz retires in the pit lane as well. Then Equaz is done and dusted in qualifying, no higher than P4 in this Grand Prix, or for this starting grid I should say. Then not in this Grand Prix, we have the Grand Prix to come after this, so we'll have to wait and see if he can improve in the next, if he can get himself back on the podium like he was in Miami as well then. But so far so good then. Legend getting out of the way then. We don't know what delta we've got because there's yellow flags all over the place with people going too slowly. Yes, we have got, Gordo seems to have an issue, and he is causing yellow flags down the start-finish straight then is Gordo. Vintage has retired, then he is P9 at best then in this qualifying session then. Where is the Young Lights then? Young Lights has invalidated. He's done a 14.9 then, would have put him in contention for the front row. A Ferrari of Sicker's Muck then crosses the line. He's starting off another lap here. Mumford retires into the pit lane for him. Moomin then just about to start off a lap just within the timer, I think then. Yes, he is. He's just within the timer then. Good stuff indeed then. Kiki and Jinna might be a bit too late here. We'll have to find out. Then Kiki crosses the line. We've got 15 seconds though. Where can Jinna get himself across the line in time is the question. Flying round the last couple of corners then. He's now going to be starting off another lap then. But yes, he is in time just about by 5 seconds or so. Good stuff indeed then. Williams then of Coop. I think Coop is going to cross the line then. Can Coop get himself a good time on the board then? So 15.3 puts himself P4 ahead of Equaz. His teammate has been displaced down to P5 then, and Coop takes P4 as it stands as well. Farf then has invalidated. Vessia has nope, he has. He's not done an invalid time, but he has unfortunately finished the session then. A lot of drivers then not been able to get time on the board, it looks like here. As Legend then is coming through into Aqua Minerale. We've got that Aston Martin of Gordo then is still holding, not holding people up, but he's going very slowly indeed then. Sicker's Muck then is next across the line then on his final flying lap here, his final attempt in qualifying here. Let's see what he can do in the Ferrari. Of course, the winner of the Chinese Grand Prix. He improves then by a 1/10.5 then up into P8 then, displaces his teammate down, and Moomin then is coming round the second Ravatsa next across the line then. Young Lights finishes P6 and he is done and dusted in qualifying then. Here he comes then. Moomin takes back the place then from Sicker's Muck. So both the Ferraris battling for P8 and P9. Kiki's gone even faster still, but here comes Legend then. Let's see what Legend can do in the kick Sauber. It's a 15.9, puts himself P10. Dark Shadow back in the pit lane. Here comes Farf. Farf has invalidated his time, so that is qualifying done and dusted, I think, with quite a lot of drivers then not getting their times on the board. Invalidated in the penultimate corner, says Young Lights there, unfortunately for him then. So there we go then. Always worry, says he always worries, does Styles. Unfortunately for Reflection, for Serious Mushroom, for Vessia, for Gordo, for Styles and for Farf, didn't manage to get a time on the board then. So very, very difficult stuff indeed for those drivers then. Really struggling, it seems, in qualifying then to get themselves onto the track. But there we go then. One man who's not struggling then is Kiki then. He's got himself pole position then by just under a 1/10 of a second. It's 97 thousandths of a second then to Jinna, as he is on the front row of the grid, leading the race then for the first lap, that is, at least potentially down towards turn 1. Jinna then in P2 then on the front row of the grid then. We'll run through the classification in full in just a jiffy. There it is then. Kiki and Jinna make up the front row. Kamara Racer in the racing ball is P3, then Coop P4, Equaz P5, both the Williams very close indeed, and Young Lights P6, Mumford in P7 then on the medium compound tyres as well then. So that's interesting stuff indeed. Moomin P8 then, Sicker's Muck P9, Legend P10, Vintage P11 and Ginger Age P12, and unfortunately, and Dark Shadow P13, sorry. And unfortunately, there was a lot of drivers then who didn't get a time on the board. So, yeah, too bad. Right then, we'll have a quick word from our lovely sponsors then, and we'll get ourselves ready for the 63 laps then of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Right then, here we go then. We are ready to get ourselves started, almost, for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Then just waiting for the drivers to sort out their strategy, sort out the fuel levels, sort out the tyre pressures, sort out anything else they can sort out go for a quick bathroom break. I don't know what they were having there. Maybe having a cup of tea. Maybe Ginger Rage is having a sausage roll. We don't know what is going on in those cars right now, but hopefully we can get ourselves started very soon then for the Grand Prix itself. Then there we are then lining up on the grid then to take the formation lap away. And there we go then, all 19 drivers then have got themselves away as well. Unfortunately, X-Gamer didn't get himself in the lobby in time then, so he is going to have a license point then for a no-show here. But we'll worry about that after the race. Right then, Kiki leads the way then. He is on pole position then for another race this season. Unfortunately, he has not been able to convert then his pole positions into race wins then, but we'll have to wait and see then if he can do that here tonight. Potentially this is the night that it turns around. Hopefully it does then for Kiki. Jinna then in P2 then. Hard compound tires then for Jinna starting on the hard compound tires in P2 in the Mercedes. Of course Kiki on the mediums as well then. Kamara Racer also on the mediums in P3. Both Williams then P4 and P5 for Coupe and Equaz respectively. That medium compound tires for them then. We've got Young Lights on the hards in P6. Mumford on the hards in P7. Moomin opting for the medium compound tyres. So the Ferrari has put the strategy here, just like they did in Belgium. Medium compound tyres for Moomin. Hard compound tyres then for Sick as Muck. So that is the way the Ferrari are going. Then Legend's gone for the hard compound tyres in P10. Same for Vintage, just outside the top 10 in P11 for the Red Bull team. Looking to go long in the first stint. Ginger Rage then on the medium compound tyres in P12, looking to get themselves into the top 10 very quickly indeed on those medium compound tyres compared to those on the hards around him as well. Dark Shadow opting for the mediums as well as Farf in P14. So those three are all on the medium compound tyres. Hungry Styles, hard compound tyres for the other Red Bull driver, then P15 for him. Gordo on the medium compound tyres, didn't get a lap in qualifying. Same for Vessia then, but he's opted for the hard compound tyres, as has Mushroom in P18 and Reflection in P19. Good stuff indeed then. We will be looking forward to what is going to be a pretty good racing start as X-Gamer has joined now, which is great stuff indeed. Perfect timing for X-Gamer then. Right. And now we wait for the race start to unfold then, as Junior has been disqualified from the race start, so unfortunately he will not be able to park in his optimum grid slot. But we'll have to wait and see then when all the drivers have got themselves lined up, then how the race start is going to unfold here tonight. But we'll just wait for all the drivers to get themselves parked up then. And I think we're all parked up. And DRS has been disabled, and we can't quite tell what is going on here. As the 5 red lights are on here in Imola, then the 5 red lights are off, and away we go then. A good start for Kiki, a good start for Kamara Racer. Jinner on the hard compound tyres is starting to struggle then. Coupe's gone through up into P3, I think. Yes, he has then. So far, so good then for the Williams driver, then up into the podium places. Then Gamer has left the session already. Unfortunately, those on the hard compound tyres struggling out there. It looks like there's movement making a move then on Young Lights round the outside into the first chicane. So far, so good. I think everyone's got through, apart from Dark Shadow's had an issue somewhere there. He's dropped down 6 places. Then Ginger Rage and Sick as well, battling away then into the second chicane. There's contact behind with an Alpine and a kick Sauber, I think, there. As we go through into the Tozer corner then. Ginger Rage then holding off the advances of Farf. Then I think it was Farf who caused contact then. That was a typical thing of Farf. But there we go. Mushroom's having the issue as well then down the back of the field. As we go through, then Ginger Rage is still battling away with Farf then into the Aqua Minerale complex, and then goodness me, then side by side. And now Ginger Rage has gone very wide then, and he's I think let Legend and Farf go through, and Vintage as well then. Goodness me, he's tumbling down the order now. Is Ginger Rage then into the third chicane. Goodness me, what has happened to the Ginger? He's having a few issues out there, as we've got all sorts of drivers then swarming all over the McLaren then into the first lap then. So far so good then out in front, and then both the Racing Bulls have kicked on indeed very nicely then. Both of them are storming out in front then very well indeed as well, and Kiki sets the fast lap of the race then. Lap 1 is complete then, as we get ourselves through then. 19 drivers then filtering down the main straight now as we get ourselves into the first few laps of this Grand Prix then. And then of course the order will be starting to sort itself out as we go through the laps as well then. So far so good then for the Racing Bulls. Both the Williams then have either gained or maintained position. Then Jinner of course on the hard compound tyres has lost 2 places, but he's on the hard compound tyres compared to those on the mediums around him, as we've got a problem for Coupe. Coupe has had a spin then at the second chicane then. Goodness me, he's facing the wrong way completely there, and he's spun himself around. Now thankfully he was ghosted, but he's got himself back and away. He's dropped down to the back of the field with that spin as well then. Goodness me. Coupe then having an issue, got himself back underway then, but unfortunately not sure what has caused that and where it was caused that as well. Then Red Bull then of Vintage then going very deep then, and now it's not Ginger Rage, it's Gordo then taking the advantage then as well as Vintage, sorry, went wide then, not Red Bull. But he is in the Red Bull, but he's not a Red Bull. as you go through into Sector 3 once again. Then Vessi now up into P11. Then he's gone wide there. That might be very costly indeed. Then Legend then holding station then in P10. Then Favre's got himself up 5 places. Then so far so good then for him. Vessi then is up 6 places then in the Alpine from P17, I think it was then. Oh goodness me, he seems to be jumping around all over the place there. But there we go. Then moving up into P5, I should say. Then you've got Young Lights for company now. Young Lights then with DRS then on the Ferrari has got himself through then up into P5, back up into P5 I should say then, as now we've got Kamara Racer picked up a penalty then going through the first chicane there. So that is very dangerous stuff indeed then. But so far so good then. 1 penalty out there so far. Moving now under pressure then from Mumford as well. Then Mumford trying to challenge then on the hard compound tyres then into the Tosa corner. Can he make a late move then? Not quite then on the Ferrari. Then he has to sit behind then into Sector 2. For the time being, that is. Favre then up into P8. Then he's got himself past Sickler's Muck now, who's held station, I should say, then as well. Dark Shadow and Mushroom then battling away then through the Tosa corner. Then can the Mushroom get himself through? Yes, he can. Then Mushroom goes through then, and Coop trying to get himself through as well. Then trying to squeeze past the Aston Martin. Yes, he has done. Dark Shadow goes wide then over the curbs then, and now there's a Hungry Styles with him as well. Then through in towards Aqua Minerale, and not quite then for Styles. Then he has to stay behind then into the next right turn then, but unfortunately for Dark Shadow, he's off the circuit again there. And here comes Styles then on the charge, trying to get himself past, I think, very quickly indeed. Then we've seen some great pace from Styles, but he's not got it in the, or not converted it into the 100% races, unfortunately. So far, that is. There's still a long way to go. Key sets the fastest lap of the race, then Kamara Racer just held on into the DRS then, but now Jinner is on the charge then, and here he comes then on the back of the Kamara Racer, back on the Red Bull then, back on the Racing Bull I should say, then into the first chicane we go then. Penalty then for Dark Shadow as well, then I think that was picked up earlier on in the race. Then Reflection and Ginger Rage then battling away, then moving to pick up a penalty as well, as he is trying to fend off the Haas of Mumford here into the second chicane. Then we've had Ginger Rage and Reflection switch places as well, then Reflection up 5 places now. Ginger Rage dropping back. Then Favre picks up a penalty as well. Then goodness me, Favre was going through the second chicane there as well. Then so he must have gone wide. Vessier then, oh goodness me, what's happened to Vessier? Then Vessier and Legend then have had a problem. Nope, it's not Vessier and Legend, it's just Vessier. I think had an issue at the Tosa turn. Then he spun the car slightly. We've got himself back underway then ahead of Mushroom as well. Then unfortunately that not extra start, that's a brilliant start indeed then from the Alpine then has cost him. He's down 3 places or 4 places, so where he got himself up to in the first couple of laps or so. But it is all good in the hood, we could say. As Movement's gone very wide there as well, then that's going to open the door then for Mumford, and it's also going to open the door then for a warning, I think, then for going off the track as well for the Ferrari driver. Then he's got himself, that was dropped down to P7 now with Mumford getting himself past now and trying to get himself into the fight with Young Lights as well here. But so far so good out in front. Then Gino has got the fastest lap of the race. Then he has got himself a 1 second gap then to the race leader of Kiki. But of course, he is in a bit more of, it's not equal machinery, let's put it that way as well, I would say. But there we go then. Of course, medium compound tyres then for the Racing Bull drivers then, and for Equaz as well, I believe. We will switch on to the tyre situation to see what everyone is doing. Vessio's back past Vintage then into the first chicane, then Ginger Rage and Coop. Coop's got himself past Mushroom then into P16, then trying to recover then after that spin at Tosa on the early laps. On the early laps then. Go then. So X Gamer then having a few problems then in the comment section. Like I said, it's yeah, unfortunately he couldn't get himself in, but there's nothing I can do about it, and nothing he can do about it either, to be honest. So it's just the situation that we're in. But yes, okay, if you want to react like that, then go for it. But there we are. Right then, lap 6 then about to kick off. Then here we are then into lap 6 then, now within DRS range then for the race lead here on the hard compound tyres. Looking pretty good out there as well then. But so far so good then for the Mercedes driver then as well. He is getting himself back into contention as well on those hard compound tyres. Not sure which is the best strategy. Of course, we don't know what the best strategy is around here. I have no clue. To be honest, I haven't even done any laps around Imola, to be honest, as well. So there we go. But these drivers then taking to the track then very nicely so far, indeed, in the first 6 laps or so. Legend up past the Ferrari of Sickers Muck then into P9, now 3 seconds back then from the top 8 as it stands. Favre trying to put the pressure now on Lumin into the second chicane, going very wide then, almost getting himself an another warning, but just about getting within track limits. Then Reflection picked up a warning as well. Then P12 for Reflection currently. Goodness me, that Ferrari was slowing down very quickly indeed then, and now Gordo, I think, has got himself out of shape. Then there's a problem then for Ginger Rage, and Ginger Rage has had an issue then at the second chicane. Goodness me, he's had a problem somewhere, now got himself back underway. And there we go then. There we go, Dark Shadow gone through then into P18. Then unfortunately Ginger Rage, he's dropped to the back of the field as it stands then, but we've seen quite a few drivers having a few issues out here. Hungry Styles picks up a penalty as well then for his troubles. Then P17 then for Styles, and yeah, unfortunately he's just not going his way out there at the moment. Then Serious Mushroom, sorry, he's got himself past Vintage then into Sector 3. And now the McLaren then leads his way then into P15, and Reflection passes Gordo as we go down the hill into the first Ravazza side by side then with Gordo and Reflection. Then Aston Martin and Mercedes battling away. There's contact between the two of them. Gordo then over aggressive, then going around the outside there. Favre's got himself past, moving then up into P7 for the time being now for the Alpine car, I should say. Then Reflection, Gordo and Vessia then in this battle with Sicker's Muck just ahead of us as well. Then into the first chicane, and Sicker's Muck holds the points positions, I should say, then just about. Then problem for Jinner. Then Jinner's had an issue then, has he? No, he hasn't. Kamara, yes, he has had an issue, sorry. Kamara Race has gone through into P2. Then Jinner's had an issue somewhere at the exit of the second chicane, then in towards the Tozer corner, and unfortunately not going his way then, as yes, unfortunately it's had a few problems already then in this race then, with people not being able to join then, it seems, for Gamer then, and for other people then getting their penalties all racked up as well. Then of course, like I said, Gamer made us aware of some penalty situations, as Gordo's had a problem off the circuit. Yellow flags for Dark Shadow as well. Then Dark Shadow's had an issue then in end of sector 1, then exit of the second chicane as well then. But he is back underway, I think, then. Good stuff indeed. But yeah, like I was saying, then unfortunately we've had a few people having technical difficulties and that sort of thing, so it does happen. Ginger Rage picked up a penalty as well then, just as I was saying that. So there we go. Right then, here we go on the charge now. 3 seconds back then, the gap then to the race leader. Jinner has now got himself back up into P2 and can now try and regain his composure after that problem. Then that spin earlier on into Tozer, then on the previous lap, then back underway. Then goes the Mercedes driver, then back on the charge then to get himself back in contention. I keep saying back, but he's trying to get himself back in contention for the race lead. There we go, Vessia up into the top 10 now, passes Sicker's Muck as well then in the Alpine, then going good guns then for Vessia. Then after having a difficult start, well, he didn't have a difficult start, he had a great start indeed then, but of course had that spin then, which cost him the positions that he did gain then on the first couple of laps, and now onto the back of Legend in the Kick Sauber as well then, as we go through into Tozer, then onto into Sector 2 as well now. Flying through then, Jinner's now got a 2.7 second gap. Favre's picked up another penalty for his troubles as well there, as penalty starting to rack up. Then Ginger Rage has had another problem, he's off the circuit completely then. Where's he gone? There he is. Right then, he's trying to get himself back on the circuit then, but I think he's gone over the curbs then in the second chicane, and that has cost him very dearly indeed then. Kamara Race has dropped down to P3, trying to hold on now to the Mercedes of Jinner as we fly down the hill then towards the first Ravazza. Kamara, he's got a 3 second penalty, I think, going through the first Ravazza there as well, and the second Ravazza indeed for Kamara. So penalties then starting to rack up then for the Racing Bull driver as we go through onto lap 9 now as well. Then Dark Shadow picks up a penalty as well. Then penalties are rolling in here. Like I said, a lot of drivers complaining about the track limits then, but to be honest, then it seems like most of them, especially from the qualifying, were just extending the track then, unfortunately, and that is going to be costly, especially around this sort of circuit where there is so many opportunities to do that. And of course, invalidations do come with that as well. Then Vessia's up to P9, passes Legend. Then Coop's got himself past Gordo. Then for P13, I think it was Gordo, or potentially it was Gordo getting past Mushroom. I'm not quite sure. I couldn't quite tell. I can't remember. Here comes Reflection though on the Ferrari, trying to go around the outside there at Tozer. Then that's going to be a very interesting move indeed if he can pull that off. Not quite then for Reflection. He has to stay behind in P12 for the time being then. Equaz and Younglights going to start their battle then for the battle behind, as Reflection does pick up a penalty, I should say. So he was on my mind, but unfortunately I got it wrong. But there we go then. Kamara Racing then has just about, can he hold on to that DRS then for Jinner? Then can he hold on to that rear wing then of the Mercedes? Not quite then. Yellow flags then for Dark Shadows, having another problem out there. Hopefully get that sorted. He seems to have got himself back underway. Young Lights picks up a 3-second penalty, then going wide then at the final corner and well, into the second Ravazza, I should say, then, which we've seen quite a few drivers already invalidate there in qualifying as well. Then here comes Young Lights then on the charge, then Equaz is staying with him as well. Then here comes Mumford in P6 as well. Then they've dropped fast by 1.7 seconds for the time being. Then Gordon picks up a penalty as well. Goodness me, I think it would be lucky if you finish the race without any penalties around here. Serious Mushroom has got himself past Gordo with some DRS, then down the main straight, then up into P14 for the Mushroom, then and on the charge once again. Then yellow flags for Reflection. Reflection's had an issue then at the first chicane there, and coming back on the circuit, then just behind Gordo now as well. Then thankfully he goes to them because Gordo was almost into the wall otherwise if that had happened then. But he's got himself back underway. Then unfortunately Reflection dropping down to P15, back underway here. Goodness me. Top two have not got any penalties. Then same for Equaz, same for Mumford, same for Vessia, same for Sickers, Muckling, Coop and Mushroom. Keeping it clean out there so far then on lap 10. There we go then, so far so good then, as we go down the hill once again then to finish off lap 10 here. Equaz now is in the fight then, but Kamara Racer is under pressure now from the kick Sauber of Young Lights then, looking to steal away that podium place then if he can. Down the main straight of course with some DRS then will be the opportune place to make the move as we go on to that main straight then to start off lap 11 here as well. Then flying down the main straight, here we go then, Young Lights then into P3, takes away P3 then from Kamara then, but here comes Equaz on the charge as well. Then can Equaz get himself through as well? Then Kamara down to P5 here as well. Then Equaz takes P4 away then from the Racing Bull driver, as there we go then into the first chicane then, and now the roles are reversed then. Young Lights now P3, Equaz P4, Kamara down to P5, and now Mumford on the hard compact tyres all over the back of the Racing Bull driver as well, as we go into Tozer as well. And once again then single file through here almost, just about then for those drivers. Then 2.8 seconds gap back down to Farth, then Moomin then 2.8 seconds or 2.3 seconds behind Farth, and now Vessia, Legend and Sickers Muck then will start to gain on the other Ferrari driver as well. Then we go over the crest of the hill then into sector 2. So far so good then. Goodness me then, that is who was that? I think that was Moomin then. Moomin was just drifting around into sector 2 then. That is not good for your tyres, and definitely not good for your tyre temperatures for sure. That is for your tyre wear and for your tyre temperatures. Far picks up a penalty as well then, so he is having a few issues out there going through the third chicane now as we go back down the hill once again for Farth. We'll come back to this battle here then for P3, the final podium place. Then Equaz is currently in contention for that place, and here he comes then onto the back straight. Then can he keep up with the Young Lights then in the kick sour then as we fly down the main straight once again? Then ERS lights flashing away then, looks like, for the majority of drivers as we go down here. But here comes Kamara on the attack then. Can he get himself back up into P4 into turn 1? Not quite then for Kamara. Sorry, here comes Vessia though. Vessia's got himself up into P8 then. Vessia back on the charge indeed then, especially after the fantastic first few laps that he had as well. He's got himself back up into contention now into, oh my goodness me, that is definitely not a move then to make then for the Ferrari of Moomin. Thankfully neither of them came off worse then, but Vessia has got himself up into P8 now and challenging on then in this race. Kamara Racer picks up a penalty as well then, unfortunately for Kamara. Then penalties are starting to rack up around here. We'll have a look at the penalty situation. We've got quite a few drivers then already on 9 seconds and we're only on lap 12. But like I said, it's trying to get yourself through here in contention. Then of course you can report penalties after the race, but you need to be within track limits, and it'd be a warning that's not correct for the warning to be taken away, of course. Yes, you can blame the track limits all you want, but unfortunately you need to keep within them. But there we are then. Mumford then getting himself up into P4, passing Equaz here as we go on to the into the middle part of the race now, to be fair, into the first quarter of the race. Jinner picks up a penalty as well then. Goodness me, Jinner then through into the first chicane, has picked up another warning, then picked up another penalty, unfortunately as well. Then Mumford now up into P4 then. Can he challenge for a podium place then, as he did previously in Miami as well? Then he was in the Aston Martin in that race, and so he's in a bit of a slower car this time, but it's not hampering him too much here as we go through into the Tozer corner as well then for the Haas driver. So far so good then. Unfortunately, that is, oh goodness me, we've had a problem there somewhere. There's a Ferrari of Sick as Muck then off the circuit. Coop then going through then into P13. Sick as Muck's had an issue then at the second chicane then, trying to get himself back underway then, but he's lost out, I think, to Mushroom and to Reflection and Coop as well in the Williams car. Coop, of course, recovering himself then after that spin earlier on in the race then, but he's got himself nicely back up into P13, nicely into contention here as well. Then Young Lights picks up a penalty as well. Then goodness me, penalties are flying out here as well in Imola. But like I said, it is keeping within track limits and is the difficult part around this circuit. So we will have to wait and see if the drivers can get them removed or not then. But of course, if you're within track limits and you get a warning, like I said, then you can of course get that removed then. But you need to make sure you keep it within track limits is the paramount exercise around here, it seems. Especially with all these warnings rolling in, then it looks like Farf and Kamara have switched places. Then Farf now up into P6 here. Kamara dropping down then to P7. Then we might see some pit stops then starting to unfold very soon. Coop, Sick as Muck is back past Coop, then down the main straight. The Ferrari then here in its home Grand Prix, or one of its home Grand Prix then, has got himself back up into P13, then back on the charge now as Hungry Styles has got himself past his teammate of Vintage. Dark Shadow unfortunately picks up another penalty for his troubles. Then he is having a few issues out there. Same for Ginger Rage, then trying to get themselves back in this race here for those two. But so far so good then for the rest of the field. Then they are charging on out here as well. Then Kamara Rosa trying to hold on to the back of the Farf into Aqua Minerale as well now. But he's losing a bit of time then. But he's now gained it back then through that complex of corners as well, which is good stuff indeed then from Kamara. Then soldiering on out there as well, trying to get himself through without any more warnings would be nice. Because of course I think he's already on 9 seconds as well. Same for Farf. Yeah, of course Farf is no stranger to racking up penalties. But there we go. Then Reflection picks up another penalty as well. As I keep talking about them, they keep appearing as we go through these first and second revatses here as well. And now lap 15 has commenced. Then Farf is trying to defend. Then here comes Kamara Racer. Then he's got some DRS then to play with. Then can he get himself past the Alpine into P6 here? Sorry, not quite. Then he has to sit in behind. Then just about then behind the Alpine through the first chicane. Then 1.4 seconds the gap now out in front. Then the gap coming down then for Ginner's, or in Ginner's favour I should say. Then Legend picked up a penalty as well. Then in P10 he's trying to get himself past Moomin as well. Then for that P9 position as well past the Ferrari. Medium compound tyres have done 15 laps at the end of this one. Then when will we see the medium compound tyres drop off completely and those drivers have to come into the pit lane? We will find out soon. Young Lights picks up another penalty, then going wide then in sector 2. Ekbaz picks up a penalty as well then, going wide in the same place there as well then for the Williams driver. Then Dark Shadow picks up another penalty as well. Then unfortunately, goodness me, penalties rolling in there through the third chicane then for the Dark Shadow. So yeah, unfortunate for them. But like I was saying, it's still been still putting on a show then, especially trying to go as fast as you can then around this circuit. But trying to keep yourself without any warnings is also the other problem. Then Vessi is doing a good job then. I don't want to jinx it. The same for Mumford, the same for Kiki, the same for Mushroom, Sick as Muck, and Coop as well then. But they are of course keeping their races clean, keeping their race directors clean, I suppose you could say as well, without any warnings, without any penalties. And that of course is going to help them at the latter part of this race. Then at the end of this race, then when the checkered flag does fall. Lap 16 then as we've got Kamara then going past Farf then, but he's unsettled the car going over those curbs there as well. Then now Farf trying to go around the outside here into P6, back up into P6, he takes back the place then. Kamara then going for an opportune move then, but unsettling the car, and that is cost him unfortunately then. He's not cost him too much then, but he's lost out that position then back to Farf. Straight away then going through that chicane. Then Vessi now is catching up to the pair here, and on the hard compound tyres looking quite strong out there as well. Mushroom then and Reflection then just outside the top 10 as it stands. Legend, sorry, has knocked himself past Moomin then into P9, then Moomin dropping down into P10 for the time being, but still doing well in the points pair positions then. Mushroom and Reflection are 3 seconds off the top 10, and currently Mushroom has no penalties as well then, so that is really quite promising stuff indeed then, with the pace that the Mushroom has got then in his McLaren, then flying through now. Coop is going through the Aqua Minerale section as well then. Moomin picks up a penalty. I thought that was Coop just then, but going through the third chicane then for Moomin, and unfortunately that has been very costly indeed. Then Sick as Muck has got a 3-second penalty as well then for multiple warnings again, same through that same chicane then. So it seems like the sector 3 chicane is very treacherous indeed, as we've got a few drivers then coming through onto the next lap as well. 10-second penalty for Moomin for speeding in the pit lane. That is costly indeed. I'm not quite sure if that was just an error or if there's somebody who's taken the brake marker boards off for trying to get yourself into the box. Then onto the hard compound tyres goes the Ferrari driver, back underway. Where will he come out? It's a long pit lane here. He's going to come out behind the Red Bull pair, I believe then, but he's on the freshest tyres on the grid then. So far, so good. And here we go then, out in front then. Gino has got himself a battle now for the race lead then with Kiki. Then he's caught up to the Racing Bull driver then, going through Acqua Minerale as well then. I think Kiki's medium compound tyres might be worse for wear at this stage as we fly through into lap 17. And so far so good then, out in front then for Gino. Then he's got a penalty, unfortunately though. That is probably the only blemish on his race so far, but he's going to be lining up a move I think very shortly then for a overtake for the race lead. Yellow flags in sector 2 and 3. Not sure what's going on there, but hopefully they have got themselves sorted. As here comes Gino then onto the main straight. Then he's got some DRS. Then Kiki carrying on, I should say. Then here comes Gino then for the race lead. Can he make the move? Then can he get the position then before the first chicane? Then as we make the move, I think he's made the move. Then yes, he has done. Up into the race lead then for Gino. Then passes Kiki for the P1 position. Then back up into the race lead then where he is familiar with. But of course he has now got to try and fight off Kiki as well. Then he's going to try and stay with him as close as he can. Then Farf and Equaz then battling away. Then Farf has got a penalty for cutting the chicane. Reflection passes Serious Mushroom as well. And up into P10 then with Moomin's pit stop, of course. Moomin, like I said, on the fresh hard compound tyres, is going to be going great guns in here indeed then, because he's going to be on much fresher tyres than the rest of the field ahead of him as well then, and that undercut could work brilliantly indeed then for the Ferrari driver. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to play out then for the early stopper then of Moomin. We've got I think Dark Shadow just getting out of the way then of the flying few coming through here. There's quite a bit of a train forming behind Farf now. Ekpaz, Camaro and Vessia then have caught up to this battle. All four of them flying through Acqua Minerale here onto lap 18. So far so good then. Kiki has almost lost that 1 second window then as Dark Shadow picks up a penalty then. Kiki has almost lost that 1 second window heading into the first Ravazza now, and I think he might be out of that DRS range now into the second Ravazza. Yes he is. Will he have the DRS though still? Yes he will do then. Never mind then, ignore me. Mumford now onto the charge then for another podium place, then he's got no penalties. He's already automatically on the podium then with Young Lights penalty as well, but we'll wait and see if we can do that on track. Then into the pits comes Farf then. Farf calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. 17 laps then, or 18 laps I should say then, on the medium compound tyres. Vessia's got himself past Kamara Racers I think, and to goodness me, he's going to go for the move then on the Williams of Equaz as well then. Not quite though for Vessia. Stays P6 then, but he's on the charge then. Young Lights picks up another penalty unfortunately for him then. Farf dropping down the order. Where is Farf going to come out of the pit lane? Wardo is also in the pit lane, calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres too. Moomin coming through the final Ravazza. Then where will he come out in respect to Farf and respect to Gordo? I think he'll be ahead of Gordo then, but he won't be ahead of Farf, who's come out of the pit lane now, P15 on those hard compound tyres. Then Equaz and Kamara Racer are battling, and Equaz has got, sorry, Kamara Racer has got himself back through on the Williams car then. Of course, both on the old medium compound tyres at this stage. Then will they come into the pits at the end of this lap? Then we've seen some pit activity then for the medium runners already, for Moomin and for Farf then, and they are now on a fresh set of hard compound tyres and trying to get themselves as far as they can then into this next stint of the race. Then Mumford's got himself past Lights then into P3, into the first Ravazza then, so a bit of an odd overtaking place there unless Young Lights had an issue. But now on to the main straight once again then, into the pit. No, neither of them coming in the pit lane. Kiki has stayed out as well then, but on to the back straight then. Mumford has got the DRS as well somehow, so that was a brilliant overtake then from the Haas driver then. But now it looks like Kamara staying out, Ekbaz staying out as well then. Needs to have got DRS then on Vessia as we go down towards the first chicane then. Legend then can catch up now with those on the medium compound tyres. Gordo's got a 3-second penalty as well then, trying to get those hard compound tyres warmed up. Sorry, medium compound tyres warmed up for Gordo. I thought he started, he must be doing medium to a different tyre. Then we'll have to wait and see what he's going to go on to next. Coop then is in P12 then. He is yet to pit. He's on the medium compound tyres as well then. He's all over the back of Stickers Muck then. Mushroom up into the top 10 now with the pit stops for Farf and for Gordo and for of course Moomin Ninja as well then. Farf's got himself past Vintage now as well then. Farf is up into P14 then, and on the charge on the hard compound tyres. Where will the rest of the field filter out then when they do make their stops as well, is what we're going to have to find out then. Where will they come out is the question. We don't know how long they will take in the pit lane either. They might have different stops, they might have issues, we'll have to wait and see. Dark Shadow picks up another penalty. Unfortunately, he's not having a great time out there in terms of the penalty situation, and he's racking up those 3-second penalties. You've got yellow flag then Yellow flag for Ginger Rage then. Where's he gone this time? He's off the circuit into the exit of the first chicane, and he's back underway quickly enough. Good stuff indeed then. Kiki's carrying on, and he's done 21 or 21 at the end of this lap as well. 21 laps then on the medium compound tyres. And we've seen people having to ditch the medium compound tyres already so far in this race. Then I'm not quite sure a one stop is going to be the best strategy here. So potentially those on the two stop will be better off then in this one. If they pit already, then potentially they can factor themselves back in this race. Then we'll find out as we go through into the latter part of the race. Then we've got still quite a few laps to go then. So those who pitted early then will be very much catching up to the back of the field very quickly indeed on these new tyres as well. The likes of Favre, the likes of Moomin, the likes of Gordo as well. Nobody else has blinked yet to come into the box just at this moment though, so we'll have to wait and see when they do call it a day. Call it a day finally on those mediums or all those hards. I think the hard combat tyres probably can do another few laps or so, but the mediums might be getting towards the end of their best life now as Kiki picks up a penalty as well. Then I think those medium combat tyres are starting to scream now for Kiki as we go down into the first Ravazza then for the Racing Bull. Then Jinner in the race lead then in Ravazza 2 then is leading the way then by 2 seconds then to Kiki, and having a good time out there on the hard compound tyres it looks like. Then Kiki stays out once again then. He's still 2 seconds behind Jinner then, but he's sticking at it for the time being. Then yellow flags in Aqua Minerale, not quite sure what's going on there. Then Young Lights has lost out to Mumford for the time being. Then just outside that DRS range then Vessia up into P5. Then Camaro is now 2 seconds back as we've got more yellow flags in for somebody in sector 2. Farf then has got a penalty for his troubles as well. Then he is trying to push on now on those new hard compound tyres. And goodness me, then here comes Legend, here comes Camaro, and we go into the first chicane. Camaro picks up a penalty then, and Equaz has got himself passed into P7. Yep, there we go then, good stuff indeed. Mushroom then has dropped off the back of Reflection for the time being though, but he is still in contention for some good points here as well, especially with the penalty situations then for the drivers around. But the penalties, like I said, are racking up then because they're not staying within the track limits as it stands. And Dark Shadow is retired in the pit lane, and that is him done and dusted in this race. Only 20 laps in, or 22 laps in I should say then. But there we go then. Legend then is up into P8 now. He's got himself past the Reflection, past Equaz, sorry I should say, somewhere. I thought he was anyway, but he seems to have dropped back behind. But Kamara Racer then is back in contention then for some back into contention for P6 then. He's doing a good job out there in the Racing Bull. Let's see what he can do then in the remainder of this race as well. Then we've got about a third of the way through the Grand Prix so far. So good out there as well. Then Coop then in P12 then trying to get himself back in this race. Then Kiki's had an issue somewhere then. What's happened to Kiki then? He's had a problem then as Kiki's dropped down behind Mumford and behind Young Lies then. Where's he gone? Oh, there he is. That's the Aston Martin of Dark Shadow then. His car's come out the pit lane then and retired on the circuit. Then Legend's got himself past Equaz now, up into P7. Then on the charge then with Kamara Race then into the first chicane. Not quite then for Legend, and he has to sit behind at this point of the race, or this point of the lap I should say then, because he's going to be pushing very hard I think to get himself back in contention there in for that P6 position I think very soon indeed. Then Kiki then P4. Having that issue, we didn't see what happened then, but it was very close to the pit entry, so maybe he decided to try and go for the pit lane and then abandon his attempt then, as Gordo's got himself the fastest lap of the race then so far on his fresh medium compound tyres. He's on the charge now as Gordo on those fresh mediums as well. Then can he get himself back in contention in this race? And of course he is currently leading the championship as we've got we've got Young Lights going very wide then, very wide indeed then, and that is I think well, definitely not part of the circuit that we need to try and rent when we get here for Imola then in gold, as Ginger Age's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. Then goodness me, he's not going his way then tonight, unfortunately for Ginger Age then, but so far at least he's soldiering on up there. Hard compound tyres going on the McLaren driver, then he's into the box, then calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres that he started the race on then, but of course we've got quite a lot of pit stop activity still to come in this race. Then Equaz has called it a day then on the medium compact tyres. Then Kiki's back past Young Lights, is he? No, yes he is. Then Young Lights is off the circuit there. Gordo's got a penalty as well then, goodness me. Then Equaz into the pit lane onto the hard compound tyres and back underway. I think we'll come out behind Farf here. Yes, so Farf has got a nice little undercut then on the Williams car of Equaz. Then Equaz is actually fighting for the pole positions as well. Ginger Age is parked off the circuit then. And what has happened to Ginger Age then? He's had another issue it seems then at the first chicane then, and trying to get himself back underway here. and he has got himself back on the way then, but he seems to be taking a trip through the gravel at least. Vintage has had an issue as well then. Maybe he's been distracted by Ginger Rage's car moving, picked up a penalty as he's gone past Ginger Rage then, but it seems Ginger Rage haven't seeming to have some sort of technical problem out there. Goodness me. Yellow flags fluttering away then because of the McLaren then just still stranded on the circuit then, but now Mumford then is back underway then. He's got a 5-second gap then to the race leader of Ginner then. Kiki then carrying on the medium compound tyres. He's done 25 laps now on the medium compound tyres. Goodness me. Kamara Racer is he coming in the pit lane? Is he carrying on? He's carrying on as well then, so he's still soldiering on out there I should say then on those medium compound tyres. Reflection is going to go through then in the Mercedes then on the hard compound tyres, which I'm sure are going to be much fresher, or not so much fresher I suppose you could say. Down 24 laps still on the hard compound tyres is not going to be too fresh, but it'll be much better than the medium compound tyres at this stage of the race. Then Favre up into P11 now. Coop is in the box as well then. Where will he come out in respect to his teammate as well, as we get ourselves into the box once again then and back underway then. Coop is onto medium compound tyres, so he's done medium I think it has Coop. So that is interesting to see then. Where will he come out in respect to Gordo and Vintage? They've gone through. Moomin has gone through as well. Then Ginger Rage is back in the pit lane. Then I'm not quite, maybe he's got some wing damage that he didn't fix then on his first pit stop. Unfortunately, Ginger Rage out of the pit comes Coop then on the fresh medium compound tyres and back underway then in the Williams. So Ginger Rage has had a wing change there, or serving a penalty I think then for some reason, but it has been sorted and dealt with, and now Reflection is on the charge then. He's trying to get himself back up into P6 then. Passing Legend now is his next target then on lap 26 then of 63. So far, so good then. Unfortunately for a couple of drivers, they've had an issue, but so far the majority have not had a problem, I should say. But he's back on the way. He's back up into P6 now as well. Then he's got himself through then into P6, passing the kick salvo of Legend and yellow flags for McLaren. It's not Serious Mushroom then, but it's we've got a Red Bull off. No, it was a Racing Bull off the circuit then as well, and exactly the same as where Ginger Rage went off. Kamara Racer has gone off as well then. Has he got a puncture potentially on those old medium compound tyres? That might be very dangerous stuff indeed then if that is the case. He is back underway, and Farf has gone through, passing the Racing Bull driver then, but there's no puncture then for Kamara. I'm not quite sure if there's an issue out there for some reason, but they seem to be Ginger Rage and Kamara both had the same incident then at the first chicane. Then Vintage into the pits and onto a fresh set of medium compound tyres as well. They're dropping down to P17 for the time being, but out in front then Jenna leads the way by 6 seconds. Then he is of course yet to pit then, same for the top 9 are yet to pit in this race. Then Camaro, Hungry Styles as well yet to pit. Then P11 and P12 for them respectively as it stands. And Kiki is calling it a day finally on the medium compound tyres. Then potentially he's going to try and do a one-stop then onto the hards then to the end of the Grand Prix. Then I'm never sure if a one-stop is the best strategy in a 100% race, to be honest, because there's so much time, there's so much space then to overtake in these races that making a two-stop work is a lot easier than doing it in a 50% race, then, in my opinion. That is that. And Moomin unfortunately picks up another penalty then for his troubles. Then he has got Sick as Smokes come out in P8 then. Where is where is Kiki? Goodness me, I can't keep track of it. There he is. Kiki is out in P10 then. So Kiki is now on the freshest hard compound tyres and freshest tyres, well, got his vintage I suppose you could say, on the field as it stands. Kamara in the pit lane, he's got a wing change underway as well then. So I think the reason why Ginger Rage did pit was because he had a wing change. Ginger Rage just pit again then, so I'm not quite sure. He seems to be going over the grass then at the pit exit as well, then, so he's not having a great time up there. Ginger Rage then, keeping that car in the track limits as well then. But here we go then, here comes Reflection, then here comes Legend as well. They are on the attack then. Vess here up into P4 then. He's done a great job out there. Of course yet to pit in this race then. We might see Farf, Kiki, Equaz then, and maybe Gordo will get themselves into contention then for those positions as we see the top 9 or top 8 filter into the pit lane, but they're not coming in just yet. Then they're all on the hard compound tyres, so they might be going another 6 or 7 laps or so then before they pit onto a medium set then to the end of the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see what they're going to do. And Gordo has just mentioned something else. Rain in 10 minutes then, says Gordo. And I completely forgot about that. Of course, we were told at the beginning of the race then, but beginning of the session, I should say, then by Ginger Rage. So at the halfway point, as Reflection's gone very wide then, and that will be very costly indeed. At the halfway point of this race then, we might see some rainfall here in Imola then, which could get very spicy indeed. Then we'll have to wait and see how it, well, not spicy, it's going to get very damp indeed. But we'll have to wait and see then when that happens, and if it happens, how hard is it going to rain as well. Then we'll have to wait and see then in the next few minutes. Then Gordo has somehow typed that then whilst he's racing, and so that's fantastic stuff indeed. Then Coop has had a problem. Then Coop has dropped down behind Moomin at the first chicane. Then he has had an issue trying to get that Williams van back underway. Then he has done now, but unfortunately on the fresh medium compound tyres, then a mistake then into the first chicane, and costly indeed then for the Williams driver. There we are then. Back underway then for the rest of the field. Then here comes Reflection, and he's back into the attack, then back onto the attack, I should say, then, for that P4 position, then trying to get himself past Vessia here. DRS open then for Mercedes and activated for Reflection as he flies along now and up into P4 he goes, then passes Vessia, then into down to P5 then for Vessia, then, but Vessia still no penalties for him. Then he's soldiering on up there. He's doing a great job in the Alpine so far then. This is the closest battle on track, I think then. Oh no, it's not then, because here comes Farf then. Farf has got himself into the contention with Sick as Muck now for that P8 position then. Sick as Muck yet to pit in the Ferrari, but Farf now into P8 now as well, then charging on those fresh hard compound tyres. Then we've got Kiki on the attack as well soon, right behind these two. And he's on the fresher tyres then. He's got 8 lap younger tyres than Farf, so he is currently on the charge, I should say. We've got Kamara picking up a penalty, unfortunately, for his troubles as well. Then after that pit stop, then for a new front wing, was very costly indeed. But of course, he can get himself back. What is that? He's less than 20 seconds or so off the top 10, I would say roughly. Maybe that's horrible maths. No, I'm not quite sure what the time is saying then. Before Kamara, I'm very sorry, I can't do maths. It's not my strong suit. But there we go. There we are then, right then, so lap 30 of 63 then, rain on the forecast as well then, so we'll have to wait and see when that's going to come in, but there we go then, on to the halfway point of the Grand Prix. So far so good then, and yes, brilliant stuff indeed then, fantastic stuff indeed then in this race then. I'm really enjoying this one. It's been absolutely brilliant so far then in the first half of the Grand Prix then. Coop is back past Moomin then, and Kiki and Sick as Muck then switching places, then Kiki now up into P9 on those fresh hard compound tyres. Of course, like I said, if the rain's going to start coming, then those who have pitted might be in a bit of peril then. I thought it was going to work the other way around then. Of course, I completely forgot about the rain, but they might be in a bit of peril then if they have pitted and their rivals stay out then and can get to the rain on the first or their only set of dry tyres then in this Grand Prix. Yes, we'll have to wait and see really, won't we? But everyone now racking up penalties then. Mushroom has not got any penalties. Vessia, no penalties, and same for Mumford as well then. Out there as it stands then, unfortunately. Only 3 drivers in without penalties. Like I said, it's a very difficult circuit to negotiate then without getting yourself those track limit warnings, as Mushroom then is soldiering and then through the third chicane, sorry, as Ginger Rage picks up another penalty as well then. And there we go then, good stuff indeed. Right then, Reflection and Vessia then carrying on their battle then for P4. And Vessia, of course, like I said, is doesn't have to push too hard really now. He knows that he's got quite a lot. Kiki then, oh sorry, that's not Kiki, that's Young Lights, I think. Then that back end snapping out then over the first chicane. Kiki's got himself past Farf now into P8 here. Of course, he's on 8 lap younger tyres, I should say, than the Alpine of Farf then. But both of them have pitted, and of course will be catching hand over fist then to the top 7 then. And of course those who have pitted as well then, the likes of Equaz, the likes of Coop then, the likes of Camaro, the likes of Vintage. Moomin I think has given up in this race, so that's fantastic. I mean, yeah, well, I could just give up as well, to be fair, at some points if I wanted to, but I can't, because I am not allowed. I've got to commentate for 63 laps then, whatever I say, but whatever I do, unfortunately I'm stuck here in the commentary box for 63 laps then. Kamara Racing picks up a penalty for trouble with Ginger Rage as well. Soft compound tyres going on the Ferrari of Moomin, sorry. Reflection is all over the back now of Young Lights then, as he's trying to challenge them for that podium place here for Reflection. Here he comes then with some DRS then on the kick Sauber. I think they call it the kick Alpine again, but the Mercedes, sorry, is up into the podium places then, and on the attack then he's got himself through, then passes Young Lights then into the first corner. Then Reflection takes that P3 position, then very nicely done indeed. Then Sicker's Muck picks up a penalty as well. Then out of the pits comes Moomin and Ginger Rage, I think. Then I'm not quite sure if Ginger Rage is pitted. Then I'm not sure if it was somebody else that popped up on my screen, but nonetheless, Reflection now has a 16-second gap then to his race leader teammate, which is Ginger, of course, then, but they have yet to pit then. When will the pit stop start to unfold then, or are they going to the rain? When will the rain start to fall is the other question. Then we've got so many questions in yet to be unanswered, or yet to be answered, I should say, thank goodness me. But we have got 30 laps or so to go in this race still. Reflection picks up another penalty. Then we saw him going a bit wide then in the first and second row so then Josh lining up a move then on Young Lights, and then again then through this lap he picked up 2 more warnings as well then, so it is getting treacherous out there for Reflection. Penalty situation is not looking good then for Reflection or for Young Lights then. Same for Legend, same for Farf, then same for Kamara as Moomin picks up another penalty as well, and same for Ginger Rage then, who's having an issue out there as well, unfortunately for those few drivers as well there, but everyone else soldiering on out there as well as best they can. Ginger Rage doing his best impression of a penalty receiver, I don't know what you want to call it, but he's picking up the penalties. But there we go then, Young Lights then back on the charge then, but can't get himself back past the Mercedes of Reflection, and Reflection holding off the kick Sauber for the time being on this lap. Vessia then dropping back then at this stage then, but he's still holding on to that P5, still holding on to the DRS detection point of the kick Sauber of Young Lights ahead of him as we fly through on lap 33 so far. So good then out there as well. Then where are the pit stoppers then? That gap between Kiki and Mushroom was over 7 seconds a few laps ago, then it's now down to 3.5 seconds or so. So the fresh tyres definitely kicking in here, and we might see that time, that delta, start to fall even more as well. We've got Young Lights picking up a penalty, then going into Sector 2, then through the Aqua Minerale section as well. Vessia picks up his first penalty then of the race then, but of course keeping the penalties minimised, even if you've got penalties then, keeping the penalties minimised would be beneficial then to you for this race. Kick Alpine makes a return, nicely done, says Rocket Lee then. Yes, Kick Alpine then, everyone's favourite F1 team. Ginger Rage again picking up penalties as well out there, but it might be best just to leave him to it now. But there we go then, Young Lights then on the attack this time. Can he get himself back up into P3 in the kick Sauber? I got it right this time. But on the charge this time down toward, we've got the Legend in the pit lane. Legend is moving, he's got the fastest lap of the race then. Good stuff from Moomin for keeping going in this race then. Moomin, he's got the fastest lap of the race on the soft compound tyres now. Legend into the box though, and he's on medium compound tyres. He's going on medium compound tyres now for the kick Sauber, and he is dropping down the order. Where will he come out in respect to the Williams then, who have pitted of course to fresher tyres? You're going to have to do 30 laps then on those medium compound tyres. That's going to be quite a stretch indeed then for the green machine. He's going to come out in P12 then ahead of Gordo and ahead of Coop as well then. Kiki's now caught up to Serious Mushroom then. Kiki's on charge, look at him go, he is flying out there in the racing ball then, and of course he's on much fresher tyres then, but he's really putting the power down through those fresh tyres as well then, using the benefit then as we get towards the latter half of this race then, but of course towards the rain that we've been told is coming, but we don't know when. Kiki then trying to get in position then to line up a move on, oh goodness me, over those curves then, and that is oh goodness me, that has unsettled the car by almost half a second then, it looks like, as he's lost out quite a lot of time then to Serious Mushroom. Then down the hill we go then. There is a lap car, I think, then there's a Ferrari then of Moomin, I think, who's of course pitted for the soft compound tyres and has got the fastest lap of the race then. Of course he needs to finish the race now to be able to hold on to that, as Mushroom is diving into the pit lane then. He's calling it down the hard compound tyres. 34 laps then for Mushroom. Kiki up into P6 now as well. Farf has got himself through, of course, on a 16 lap old hard compound tyres, and Sicker's Muck will go through as well. Then where will Mushroom come out though in respect to the rest of the field? Then I think he might be behind Legend. It will be close indeed. We'll have to find out as of course this pit lane then really could end here, but it doesn't. It carries on then for quite a long while as you go along then towards the towards almost the well, the end of the straight pretty much. Gordo goes through then P12 for Gordo, then Mushroom coming out then on much fresher medium compound tyres, and back underway then in P13. But of course, look at those penalties, and there's only 2 drivers left without any penalties. That is one here, Mumford, and there is one in the McLaren that we just saw coming out the pit lane as well there. So far so good then as we get ourselves into lap 35 then, almost lap 36 as well. Here comes Ginner then to start off lap 36. Down the hill we go then for Young Lights, and he's holding on to that DRS detection then of reflection then in the Mercedes, and he's doing a great job in the kick salver then compared to a Mercedes, you have to say, as we go through into lap 36 then for the rest of the top order. No, we don't. For reflection, he's in the pit lane. He's calling it a day then for reflection. Kiki picks up a penalty then for his troubles as well. Then he's charging now on to the onto the next lap as well. Then as Kiki, I think, is going to retain or get back himself in, get back into P4. Goodness me, I got my words out there finally. Now up into P4 then for Kiki. Then Favre carries on as well. Then reflection coming out the pit lane. Medium compound tyres going on the Mercedes and the Alpine of Vessia. And they are going to be back underway then very shortly indeed. And Sick as Muck then will take those positions, but of course he's yet to pit as well in this race, so we'll have to come into the pit lane very soon at some point. We've got a problem. Who is that? Favre is off the circuit. Favre has had a... What's happening at that chicane? Because it seems like there's a few people going off there. Yeah, it's wing damage then for Favre then. Favre's had an issue then, and that is right end plate missing then for the Alpine car as well then. Goodness me. And reflection, I think, is caught up to the back of that Alpine car then at the wrong time for sure. Equaz has got himself through then. Sick as Muck then has had a problem then. Not had a problem, sorry, he's got himself through as well. But Favre then has had an issue somewhere, and we're not quite sure. It seems to be an issue that is recurring for some drivers. I think because Kamara Racer, Ginger Age, and now Favre have all had the same issue, I think. Then Gordo's been passed by Mushroom, then Mushroom up into P11 in 6 seconds off the top 10 then. Ginner has gone into the pit lane. He has called it a day then on the hard compound tyres. He's opting for medium compound tyres for the next stint in this race. Back underway he goes then. Where will he come out then in respect to the Racing Bull of Kiki then? Kiki's going to get an undercut here, and up into P3 goes Kiki. Sick as Muck might be challenging as well. Then here comes Sick as... No, it's not Sick as Muck, it's me. Wrong Ferrari. But there we go then into the first chicane. Then Ginner is down to P4, but of course he's on the fresher tyres now as well. Then Favre into the box, and he's calling it a day then on those hard compound tyres. Of course he has had that wing damage as well, which we're not quite sure what is going on then there really, because we've had all sorts of issues that seems like then for a few drivers at that same corner. Vessia and Legend then side by side through the first chicane then, and Vessia then sneaks ahead then. I think Vessia then coming out the pit, or not, he has come out the pit on the previous lap. And soft compound tyres for Favre as he's back underway then for the right then. Back underway then for Favre, I should say. Then Young Lights picks up a penalty as well then. Unfortunately, Young Lights, the penalty starting to rack up then for the kick salver driver. He's got Kiki on 10 lap, well, so 26 lap younger tyres behind him now by 6 seconds or 5.5 seconds. Ginner now on fresh medium compound tyres. He is only, what is that, then off the lead. Nope, wrong way. It is only 14 seconds off the lead then, so he will retain that lead then when the top two do pit as well then. But so far they are carrying on out here. No qualms about it then for Mumford then, who leads the Grand Prix now on lap 38 of 63. Ginger Rage unfortunately has picked up another penalty, and we've got another problem then for another car off the circuit at the same place. No, it's not the same place. It's a Red Bull then. Vintage has had... Yeah, it is the same place. It's the same place at the end, exit of the first chicane then. Vintage has now got wing damage as well then, and he's driven off the circuit as if he has no wing damage at all. Not quite sure what is going on out there, to be honest, for these drivers then. They're really, yeah, it's odd. Let's just say that. It is really odd. We will just say that. The movement then up into P16, and Vintage has to come into the box and get a new front wing on that car ASAP. Then Equaz now is on the charge, but he's now got a fresh medium shot of Vessia then, and Legend, and of course Mushroom, who's trying to gain on him as well. Then 7 seconds the gap for Mushroom then to the top 9. Mushroom of course has got no penalties, same for the race leader of Mumford as it stands. There's still 25 laps to go in this Grand Prix, but so far so good then for those who have made their stops then. Somebody said it was going to rain soon, but I think they were wrong, because it seems to be a-okay for the time being out there. as we go through into Sector 3 now as well. Reflection all over the back now of Sick as Muck. Then, of course, Reflection has pitted for a fresh set of medium compound tyres compared to Sick as Muck, who has stayed out then on 38 lap old hard. So there's quite a difference there indeed. In terms of the tyre situation then, Vintage into the box then to sort out that front wing. Then here comes Reflection. Ginger Age picks up another penalty as well for his troubles out there. Here comes Reflection then. Can he make a move then on the Ferrari then for P5? Yes, he can then. And he has got himself up into P5 then. Very nicely done indeed. Then Legend passes Equaz then into P8 in the background as well there. Through into turn 1 as well. Then Equaz now waiting in the wings for that next position as well. Then Coop has passed Gordo. There they are. As Coop has got himself up into P11, sorry. I can't get my words out, or my numbers out, that is. But so far so good then for Coop, then trying to get himself back in this one after the difficult start as well. Then into the pits comes out of the pits comes Vintage now. He's got himself a new front wing and a new set of medium compound tyres onto the Red Bull car. Then back underway for him. Then Ginger Age then is carrying on in this race as well. Then Hungry Styles and Farf then switching places, and Farf up into P14 on the soft compound tyres, and is pushing on there on those soft compound tyres as well. Of course, has had to pit then for all that wing damage, and like I said, it seems like it's a common area then for drivers to go off. Then it looks like, because we saw 3 drivers then all having the same incident. It looks like the same recovery at the same part of the track then at the exit of this chicane here. So I'm not sure how or where they've gone off. Geeky and Young Lights then have got themselves through unscathed, as has Ginger in the background as well. Then Ginger Age picks up another penalty for his troubles, but yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened then, because it seems like there's a few people then going off in the same area there. Vessi has been passed, Vessi has got himself passed into P6 I should say. Passes Legend, then Sick as Muck dropping down to P8, sorry I should say. Then Kiki has got himself past Young Lights then into Sector 2, and now 7 seconds the gap then between Mumford and Kiki as it stands then out on the circuit. 23 laps remain of this Grand Prix, and I'm getting a bit sweaty. I was already getting sweaty in qualifying, to be fair. To be honest, I was already had the sweat dripping down my back in qualifying, and now it's 40 laps in, then I really need a bath. But there we go then. Kamara Racing picks up a penalty as well then. So lots of penalties racking up here as well then. 40 laps have been completed now. On to lap 41 very, very shortly then. There we go. 6.5 seconds the gap then for Kiki to bring down. Of course, he's on much fresher tyres then. Mumford is still going on those 40 lap old hard compound tyres. Same for Young Lights then. Sick as Muck then is potentially, is he going to come in the pit lane then, or is he going to carry on and soldier on then, just like those 2 of them in the top 3 into the first lap? So we go then for Sick as Muck then. So far so good then, as brilliant stuff indeed then, as Coop picks up a penalty for his troubles as well then. Goodness me, penalty is going to be very costly indeed, as we go through on to lap 41 then for these 2 as well. Here comes Equaz then on the charge. Equaz then is on much fresher, or 23 lap fresher hard compound tyres then, so he is not too much of a contest there, I don't think. Legend then holding on to Vessi, and then Vessi had an issue somewhere because he's lost out to Reflection as Jinner and Young Lights then switching places. Then Jinner up into P3, then he's 1.6 seconds behind Kiki, and these 2 are both gaining massively then on the race leader of Mumford then, who is yet to pit in this race. Then Kiki pitted 14 laps ago. Jinner pitted 4 laps ago then, and both of them are charging down the Haas of Mumford for the race lead as it stands then. 5 seconds the gap then to Mumford from the Racing Bull of Kiki. Then Sick as Muck and Ginger Age both pick up at 3-second penalties then for their troubles as well. Serious Mushroom then is soldiering on out there. He's now 4 seconds behind Sick as Muck, then still no penalties for him. Mumford then carries on. He's on to lap 42 then. No pit stops yet for Mumford either then, so he's going to be pushing those tyres to the limit, it looks like. Then Young Lights carries on as well then. Goodness me. As Vintage has left the session then. Oh dear. Unfortunate for Vintage then. Hopefully he can get himself back in the session then. Potentially he doesn't want to then, but it seems like most of the drivers then are giving up in this race. Why can't I is the problem, but the problem is I've got to commentate until lap 63, whereas the drivers who can give up then are just giving up now. But yes, I mean, if I was driving, I would carry on to the bitter end then, because that's the sort of driver that I am. As we've got rain on the horizon, I think then. That is a flash of rain then, I believe. Or was I just seeing things? I think I might be seeing things. Never mind. Ignore me then. I have no clue what is going on. And, well, that's not the first time. So, yes, don't you worry. It was just my imagination, I think. But I thought we saw some rain falling there. No, I'm pretty sure we're seeing some rain falling now. I think I was right, potentially. I can't quite tell. I have bad eyesight. But yes, I think there is very, very light drops of rain then falling. Yeah, there is. Let's have a look on here. Yes, there definitely is some rain falling now. I've definitely got it right in the first time then, but I was completely wrong in not having a clue what I was talking about. But that is just normal, to be honest. But lap 43 then of 63, 20 laps to go. Then Young Lights is in the pit lane, and Young Lights is very early into the box then. I don't think it's wet enough out there just for the intermediate compound tyres just yet then, but potentially going for an early stop then onto the intermediate compound tyres then for the Kick Sauber driver. And let's see if it's going to pay off or not, though, is the question. It is intermediate compound tyres going on to that green machine then. Green tyres for the green machine. Very nicely done indeed then. Young Lights then dropping down the order. He's going to be dropping down to P10, I think. Behind Mushroom now. But let's have a look and see then if it's going to be the right tyre then for the Kick Sauber driver then. Right tyre at the right time. If Mushroom gets a penalty, unfortunately for Mushroom, then that's going to be costly indeed. But well, he's done a great job then getting to lap 43 then without with only one penalty, that is, compared to the rest of the drivers then who are still ahead of him with lots more penalties. So it's not all doom and gloom then, because you can still gain quite a few positions then, even with the even with that one penalty, compared to those who have got quite a few racked up ahead of them as well. Then Jinner coming down the hill, then he's all over the back now of Kiki then, as he caught up to the Racing Bull before the Racing Bull has caught up to the Haas. And there is the Haas then of Mumford then into the second Ravazza. Then is he going to come in the pit lane? Not quite, not yet, for the top three. Then they're staying out here. Moomin picks up a penalty as well. Then here comes Jinner on the attack. Then Jinner is going to be going through to P2, I think, here, because he's not got any challenge. Then there's no DRS then for Racing Bull. The Racing Bull of Kiki then into the first chicane, and that is that. Then Jinner Rage picks up another penalty as well. Good stuff indeed. I'm sure I can see rain, says Rocket Lee. Then, well, at least one of us can. So, because yeah, blimey, it took me a while to actually figure it out. Then, but I think it's definitely drizzling out there. But whether it is Equaz is in the pit lane, whether it is wet enough yet for the intermediate compound tyres is another question. Then Moomin is pitting for the intermediates. Equaz is pitting for the intermediates. Then I think. We'll have a quick look at the fastest lap as well. The reflection on the fastest lap now as well. But there we go then. So far so good. Then Coop and Equaz are in the pit lane as well. Then so both Williams then coming in at the same time then for the intermediate compound tyres. It looks like that has been slightly held then has Coop, but they have got to work finally then. Intermediates then for Lumen as well. He's back underway. Vintage not in the session then, so unfortunately he is ruled out of this race then. At the moment, that is, of course. Hopefully he can get himself back in. Coop then coming out of the pit lane. He'll come out in P15. Right then, out in front, then Jinner is all over the back of Mumford here on those fresh medium compound tyres. This is where you want the fresher tyres, of course, when the grip starts to fade away then, as into the box comes Mumford. He's calling it a day finally then. 44 laps on the hard compound tyres. Kiki is also into the box as well. Jinner carries on here, so Jinner is thinking that it's not dry enough, not wet enough just yet then to switch onto the intermediate compound tyres. I'm pretty sure that is the way, as Ginger Rage has been disqualified from multiple penalties and out of this race. Then fantastic stuff indeed. Then Kiki has gone onto the intermediate compound tyres. Then Legend is up into P4 then, but of course he is not Legend is not pitting for the intermediate compound tyres just yet then. So far so good then. Vessio also in the pit lane. Sick as Muck then carrying on. Then Sick as Muck is yes, he is carrying on. He's done 44. Well, he's going to do 45 laps at the end of this one on his hard compound tyres. Going very wide then. A Mushroom going around the outside. He's got the position there. There's Mushroom, sorry, up into P5. Then of course yet to pit for intermediate compound tyres as well then for the Mushroom then. But so far so good. Ginger Rage has left the session. He is done and dusted in this race. Unfortunately, no points coming his way then for the Imola Grand Prix then after the fantastic performance in Miami. Farf then on soft compound tyres up into the top 10. Then Mushroom has been repassed by Sick as Muck now. Sick as Muck then somehow got himself back past the McLaren, I should say. Good stuff indeed. Then Jinner leads the way then by 21 seconds then to Legend. Then will he come in the pit lane this time? Mumford then is got a penalty for his troubles then, but he's staying out. Is Jinner then? Jinner is carrying on then on those medium compound tyres. Then what will Legend do then? 22 seconds behind the Mercedes driver then as we go down the hill then into the first Ravazza. And you know, Equaz is putting himself back past far. I think that's indicated that the intermediate compound tyres are the better tyre to be on now. Jinner then has got yellow flags for a Ferrari, just causing problems out there. But fingers crossed they can get themselves sorted and out of the way. But Legend then into P2. He is not. He is staying out there. Sickers, Muck, and Mushroom are in the pit lane, and so I think they've recognised that the intermediate compound tyres are starting to catch up to them now. So it's time to box then for the intermediate compound tyres. Then lap 46 then to the end of the Grand Prix from here, I would imagine, is the best way to go. As coming out the pit lane now, as they cruise down the pit lane, where will they come out then? Farf is into the box, and he is calling a day then on the soft compound tyres. And I think it's time for the intermediates then for the rest of the field as well. Then Serious Mushroom then out of the pit lane. He's going to be in P10, I believe, as Hungry Styles is also in the pits and calling it out on his medium compound tyres as well. Then so Serious Mushroom's on medium compound tyres again. Not quite sure what's happening for the Mushroom, but he has set medium compound tyres again then for Mushroom, and that is that then. Good stuff. Unfortunately for Mushroom, I don't think that is the right tyre at the right time at this stage of the race then. Right then, Farf is P14, then Hungry Styles P15, Moving then is P16, then he's on the medium compound tyres still as well. So Vintage, of course, is not in the car. Actually, Vintage's AI car is on medium compound tyres still, so potentially that could mean that the medium compound tyres are still the better tyre to be on. We will wait and see. Potentially it might just give up raining and we might go back to a dry compound tyres. We'll have to find out, but I'm not quite sure that's going to work out that way. Yellow flags again then for a Moomin. I think it is Moomin. Moomin needs to okay. Safety car is out then. Brilliant stuff indeed. I'm going to have a break. See you in a bit. then, now we've all cooled down, we can get ourselves on with the next 15 laps or so of this wonderful Grand Prix. Waiting for the safety car to pick up the rest of the field, and we can crack on then for this wonderful race. 14 drivers remain then. Unfortunately, Vintage not in the car, so we'll have to just power on then with what we've got left then in this race. And safety car then is out, and Jenna has pitted onto the intermediate compound tyres finally, and we will get ourselves back underway soon, I think. Hopefully, depending on when Hungry Stars can catch up to the back of the team. I think we'll do one more lap behind the safety car, so we'll be on to lap 50 of 63. And goodness me, it is very hot in this room. Yeah, thankfully I had a break, which was very nicely timed really. Right then, pit lane for Farf. Back in the pits, then goes the Alpine. What's he going to go on to is the question. Is he going to go on to soft compound tyres? He's going to go on to intermediate compound tyres for the Farf. Back underway then in the Alpine. Unfortunately, Vintage has been lapped, and I'm not sure he's back in the car or not because he's been lapped as well, so we can't tell if he's ghosted because he's been lapped or ghosted because he's not in the car. But either way, he has been lapped regardless then. So Jinder then will lead us away. Farf coming back out the pit lane in P14 behind Styles now, and we will see what is going to happen here as well then. So far so good then for a few drivers then who are still in this race at least, but yeah, once Farf has caught up to the safety car queue, we can get ourselves restarted for, we're going to have 12 laps I think remaining of this Grand Prix before we get to the checkered flag then, and of course penalties will play a factor in this race as well. Then we'll have to look at the situations, and there's quite a lot of penalties out there. Mumford's got 3 seconds and Vess is 3 seconds until they can be promoted up the order. Eklar's 3 seconds for him. A drive through for Coop then. I'm not quite sure what happened to Coop then. Kamara's got 39 seconds of penalties. Gordo has got 12, then 3 for Mushroom then, so Mushroom could get himself back up into the order very nicely indeed. And we'll have to play it by ear, or by eye I suppose you could say, at the end of this race. But there we go then, safety car in this lap then, so we can get ourselves restarted once that safety car is back in the pit lane. And we will be ready to get ourselves back underway then for this Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix then. Down the hill we go then to the first Ravazza then for the restart now, and just waiting for Gino to drop the hammer then. The safety car is almost back in the pit lane now, so he can go now. He has gone now, I think. He's gone very early then indeed. And let's see if he can get himself a nice gap then on Mumford. Then Mumford of course has got less penalties than Gino, so Gino needs to scamper off into the distance then. Goodness me. Young Lights is retired then. I'm not quite sure what happened to Young Lights then, but he is already out of this race. Then Cooper's in the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty, and Kiki's got himself past Mumford here into P2 then. Kiki up into P2 then, looking strong in the wet conditions. So of course it's a different track now, of course, in the wet conditions. We'll have to wait and see who's going to fare the best then in these intermediate conditions now. Of course, a lot different to racing on the hards and the medium compound tyres. So there we go then. Kiki has done 6 laps on his intermediate compound tyres compared to Jinner's 3. So Jinner then is looking in quite a strong place then with the fresher tyres, and of course the race lead as it stands by 2 seconds then to Kiki. Here comes Vessia then on the attack then with Mumford then into, oh my goodness me, into sector 2 then, almost very close indeed between the Alpine and the Haas car, but no damage done then, no issues then, well, I think I should say, between the Alpine and the Haas. And back underway then. Gordo's got a 3-second penalty, then the penalty is really racking up then. Disqualified from the session is Kamara Racer then for racking up too many penalties, and unfortunately that has cost him his place in the race as well then. So out of the Grand Prix is Kamara Racer then. He is done and dusted here in this race then. Goodness me. Down the hill we go then into a lap 52 very shortly then. Only 11 laps to go. I think I can try and get myself to the end of this one, but so far so good then for the 13 drivers that remain out there now. So yeah, right then, this has been worse than Australia, to be honest. Australia is usually a horrible Grand Prix for DNFs, but it doesn't seem like Imola is anybody's go-to in this series either as well then. So never mind. Only a few more races to go then before we can pack it all in. So not too long to go now. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Vessia then on the attack then for that podium place then. He's trying to challenge Mumford then into the second chicane, sorry then, but he's losing the back end then slightly as we're going to get some more than Minecraft green. It looks like potentially we could do. We've got 5 drivers, 6 drivers out of this race already. Then Vintage not in the car. He is out in P14. Young Lights was tired when the safety car came out. Moomin caused the safety car. Dark Shadow DNF'd in the pit lane, and Kamara Racer and Ginger A to be disqualified. So that is that then for your racing order so far in this Grand Prix. Then Mumford then is trying to challenge Keychains. Then up the hill we go. Then he's within DRS range, but of course no DRS in these conditions. Then as we get ourselves through into Sector 3 now. Of course, minimising the penalties now is even more of an importance. And Ekmaz picks up a penalty just as I say that. Typically. So there we go. Yes, down the hill we go then for lap 52 of 63, and now into the next complex of corners as well. Then into the second Ravazza. Then 4 seconds the gap between Jinnah and Kiki. Looking strong out there for Jinnah, like I was saying. Then on that restart, then of course he's got much fresher tyres, 3 lap fresher tyres than the rest of the field behind him. Well, most of the field behind him, I should say. Then as we go through onto lap 53, then like I said, 10 laps to go at the end of this one. Then so far so good. Then Gordo's back past Sicker's Muck, then into P8 then for the Aston Martin driver, of course, the championship leader, but he's having a few struggles out there. Is the championship leader. Coop picks up a 3-second penalty as well. Then unfortunately for Coop, then he's struggling after that drive-through penalty as well. Keegan's picked up a penalty as well then, as we go through into the second chicane. Then like I said, minimising the penalties around here is going to be of paramount importance. So there we go then. There we are. That is the situation that we've got to tackle then, as we are all racing drivers then who have to tackle the same situations as everybody else then on the same track. But there we go then. Vessia then coming down the hill, then he's all over the back of Mumford then into the Aqua Minerale section. Then Reflection's got himself past Equaz, has it? Yes, he has. Then Sicker's Muck back past Gordo, I think. Yes, he is. Both of them switching places then in a very unorthodox overtaking position. Then they have got themselves through unscathed, and now Reflection up into P6 here as well. Then trying to challenge then the next car ahead of him, which is of course Legend in the Kick Sauber. Then he has done a good job then in the Kick Sauber of keeping himself in this race, then doing a fantastic job in there in the green machine. Then Mumford then under pressure then from Vessia, who is pushing him through the first and second Ravazza, then onto the main straight then to start off lap 34. Thank goodness it's not. It's 54 out of 63. So here comes Vessia now on the attack, then side by side with the Haas driver of Mumford, then into the first chicane. It's going to be tight indeed, especially in these wet conditions. And Vessia has not been able to get past. Then Mumford holds on to P3 for the time being. Then Mushroom and Farf then switching places. Then Mushroom has been passed then by the Alpine. Of course, is on fresher tyres. It's Farf as well as we go through into lap 54. Then Farf now up into P10. Then of course he's on 4 lap old tyres, I should say. Then and quite a lot of tyres. Then quite a lot of laps, I should say, then on the intermediate compound tyres for the drivers ahead of him. So there is quite a lot of a challenge still to unfold in this race for Farf. Potentially can get himself further up the order as well. We'll have to wait and see. So far so good. Then Legend now all over the back of Vessia. Then Corey's got himself back past Sicker's Muck. Has he? Yes, he has. As these two challenge again, both of them overtaken in Sector 2, which is, like I said, not the most common overtaking place. Nonetheless, as long as you can do it cleanly, then that's fair enough. But there we go then. All the gaps then are very close indeed between all 3 drivers, apart from the race leader, who's now 6.4 seconds ahead of Kiki, and charging on then in the wet conditions is Jinnah. His teammate Reflection then is all over the back then of Legend into the first. He's picked up a penalty as well then, as I say that. Is all over the back then of Legend then in the first and second Ravazzas as well then. Now on the charge then down the main straight, but Legend is closing in on Vessia as well. Then Vessia closing in on Mumford, and Mumford closing in on Kiki as we go through lap 55 of 63. So far so good then for the 13 drivers that remain. And we are getting towards the closing embers of this race then finally, which is good for me because I'm going to be going straight to bed after this one. I can't be bothered with all the activities afterwards. I'm just going to go straight to sleep. There we go then, lap 55 then of 63. Then we've got 7 laps remaining at the end of this one. Jinnah's got a 7-second gap. Then what is the penalty situation then for Jinnah? 9 seconds for himself and for Kiki. Kiki might be demoted out of the podium places there with Mumford and Vessia only on 3 seconds there as well. Reflection's got 18 seconds. That could be close indeed for Reflection. On 6 seconds, then we'll be able to gain on 2 at least ahead of him as well. But there we go then. Gordon's got 15 seconds. That could be dicey then for Gordon to try and keep himself into the points paying positions. Then Sickers might be able to gain a few places here as well. 21 seconds then for Serious Mushroom to be able to get himself back into the top 10 quite comfortably indeed as well then for Serious Mushroom. Then Sickers picks up another penalty for his troubles as well. And there we go. Fantastic stuff indeed. I might as well, as Hungry Stars has picked up a penalty somewhere as well then. Goodness me, they're all tumbling in here as well then. Brilliant stuff. Like I said, if you think you've got unfair penalties, then you can, of course, report them and get your race director in. As we got moves then for Mumford, then move Mumford up into P2 then. And I think we saw Reflection, getting past Legend then for P5 as well then. Goodness me, I have my brain is already knackered then. Lap 56 of 63. So far so good then for like I said, the 13 remainers 13 remain in this race, I should say. Reflection's got himself past Legend, but he's dropped off the back to the Vest here then somewhere, so he's had an issue then through sector 1. I think then that overtake then costly then for Reflection, but he's back on the attack now and trying to get himself into contention then for a podium place potentially here as well. We'll have to wait and see. Again, penalty situation then will be determined. Then every driver out there has got penalties now as well. Best here then on the attack for the podium places here into the third chicane. All over the back then of Kiki then, who is starting to struggle out there in these wet conditions. Down the hill towards the first Ravazza then, it looks like Vessia might be in prime contention then to take away that podium place then from the Racing Bull driver into the first Ravazza we go then, sliding his way in then very nicely then, Reflection going a bit deep then in the background. But here comes Vessia then onto the charge. No, oh dear, that's Kiki then who's gone a bit squirrely then out of the second Ravazza, getting the power down a bit too early then. And now Vessia has had the door open for him and is flying through then into P3 then. Here comes Reflection as well then. Reflection's on the grass then. Goodness me, that is not where you want to go then. Gordon's got himself past Ekraz then into P7. Kiki then is dropped down to P4 then. Now Reflection all over the back of the Racing Bull as well. And there we are then. So far so good then for Kiki then. For Vessia then. So Vessia's got up into the top 3. Brilliant stuff indeed then for Vessia. I think he could be in contention for a fantastic result here because I think he's the one with 3-second penalties. Yes, he is. So he could get himself a nice podium place here. We've got Sickers Muck and Farf battling away then in sector 2 then, coming through the Tozer corner. Sickers Muck into P9 then, just ahead of the Alpine for the time being, that is. As we go wide then, Vessia picks up a penalty though, as I was saying, as complimenting Vessia as well. Gordo picks up a penalty as well then, goodness me. We're on lap 57 then, just get to the end of the race then guys without getting disqualified. And we've had 2 disqualifications already then for penalties, and that was even before the rain started to fall as well here, so it's going to be more difficult in the rain, although potentially the drivers are going a bit slower in the rain as well then, so potentially they can try and control the track limit situation a bit better in these conditions. Well, we don't know, we'll have to find out then when they get to the checker flag. 58 laps have commenced. Jinner has now got a 10-second gap then, so I think Jinner, even with his penalty of 9 seconds, should even all the drivers then get their penalties removed, then will be quite comfortable in the race lead out here, because he has got a 10-second gap then into the first chicane we go then. I know that's Mumford, sorry, Jinner is already into the second chicane and going through the Tozer corner now as well here. He's flying out there in these wet conditions then. Brilliant stuff indeed then for the Mercedes driver, looking strong in these horrible damp conditions as well then for Jinner then. Let's go kick Alpine, says Rocket League. Brilliant stuff indeed. So yes, kick Alpine. There's only one kick Alpine left in this race, and that's Legend in P6. Of course, penalty permitting, he might be able to get himself promoted up the order then. We'll have to wait and see as we get ourselves onto lap 58. Then only a few laps remain in this Grand Prix now, thankfully, as I need to go and take a shower after this race then. Unfortunately, I am not out there in the rain, and I wish I was out there in the rain then, compared to this horrible heat that I'm sitting in, or standing in really, in this furnace of a room. But there we go then. There's Farf and Sickers Muck then are switching places then. Farf and Sickers Muck then out of the Aqua Minerale corner, and Farf then up into P9 then, ahead now of the Ferrari driver. Going to chase down Ekraz as his next target then. Reflection is chasing down a Racing Bull. Reflection's gone very wide then. Legend's gone very wide as well, then he's got a penalty. but Reflection then all over the back then of Kiki. Then Kiki is not having a great time in these wet conditions, it looks like, compared to a few other drivers then who are very close indeed, circling around him, almost not circling around him because they can't really do that in an F1 car. But here comes Reflection then on the charge then into the first chicane. Not quite then for the Mercedes driver. He has to sit behind once again. Sick as muck, back past Farf, then into P9, then into the first chicane as well. And back up into P9, these two back away then for that final points pen position. And as it stands then, Reflection is in P5, then trying to chase down that Racing Bull then, as Farf and Sick as muck then switching places into the second chicane. Now Farf going over the chicane. And that is not how you do that corner, unfortunately, sir. But thankfully he has stayed on the track this time and not had the same issue that seemed to have cursed a few people into the first chicane as well then. So far so good then for those two. There we go then, carrying on in the fight then for the final podium place then, out in front 12.4 seconds the gap then between Ginner and Mumford. Who is looking very strong out there is Ginner then at this stage of the race then. So far so good then for those drivers who are getting themselves to the checkered flag. Much better than unfortunately a few other drivers have managed to do tonight, but there we are. That is the conditions, that is the track of Imola. Hungry Styles then has picked up another penalty, unfortunately for Styles. 10 seconds off the drift as it stands there. Kiki picks up a penalty as well then. Goodness me then, like I said, they are starting to tumble in there. Maybe like I was, my prediction then of the cars are slower in the wet then, so it won't be so much of a problem then picking up the penalties is probably not true. Reflection then up into P4, then he does pass Kiki then on the main straight then. Goodness me, weaving in front of the Racing Bull then very quickly indeed then as we go into the first chicane then. Not quite then for Legend, then Legend's had a problem then, I think almost lost the car then, and Gordo could be interested here as we go into the second chicane. No, he's too far back unfortunately then. Reflection now up into P4 and trying to get himself on the charge then for Reflection. He's looking good out there. Vessia then into P3. All over the back of Mumford as it stands as well then. So far so good for Vessia, and he's on a charge and on for a podium as it stands as well. Lap 60 of 63 then, only 3 laps remain at the end of this one. Ginner then is flying out then. He's now got a 13.5 second gap. The gap is extending by over a second each lap then, so that is pretty good stuff indeed then for Ginner, who is looking very confident in these wet conditions, like I keep saying then. But you can see the gap extending so quickly indeed that it's definitely true. Reflection then trying to get himself past Vessia then for the P3 position. That podium place then, 10-second penalty for Styles for corner cutting. And I think he's another driver then who's just going for the penalty situation then to get himself disqualified in this race. Yes, there we go then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Right, there we go, rounding the second Ravazza as well. Here comes Reflection on the charge, and once again then he's on the attack, then he's on the charge for this position, this P3 position, but Vessia then holding him off for the time being down the main straight with some good straight line speed, then a bit of battery deployed potentially for Vessia in the Alpine to hold off the Mercedes then into the first chicane, the first corner as well. Then Farf and Equaz then switching places, then Farf up into P8 now and carrying on the charge then on the freshest tyres out there as well. Then 11 laps then on those intermediate compound tyres compared to Equaz's 17. There we go then. Reflection couldn't get himself past Vessia. Now they're caught up in a bit of a queue then behind Mumford as it stands. Then lap 61 of 63. Then 2.5 laps to go here, and we can get ourselves ready for bed after this one. So far so good then for Ginner. Then he is cruising now 15 seconds. That then is the race lead. 10 seconds for Styles once again then for picking up more penalties then. Unfortunately he has not been disqualified yet. Then unfortunately that's what he's going for, it looks like. So that is his goal then in the rest of this race. Here we go then into the final chicane then, as yellow flags then for somebody. Then Mushroom picks up a penalty, then yellow flags I think for a Red Bull car of Styles. Then Farr picked up a penalty as well. Then penalties all falling in then in these last few laps. Then Styles has been passed by Coop now, as I think Styles then needs to find another kind of couple of corners to corner cut. To get himself disqualified here in this race. Then Vessia now on the charge, then here he comes then on the attack then with Mumford. Reflection is being towed along nicely, then could be a double slipstream then for Reflection. Then can he make a move on both of them down this main straight? Then here he comes then on the attack then, but he's getting closer, but he's not close enough I don't think to make the move. Then Ginner picks up another penalty then. I think Ginner is safe though penalty wise as it stands, but of course he wants to make sure he keeps those penalties minimised. But yes, there we are then. Reflection then is stuck behind these two now as well. Then 16 seconds the gap. Then we'll have a look at the penalty situation. Then for Jenner, 12 seconds for Jenner. Then so he's not in any danger as it stands. So he can just cruise to the finish line pretty much, and he will be able to get himself a very nice victory here in Imola. Then good stuff indeed. Then for Jenner, he's kept it clean and consistent and in this race, and really turned his form around as well. Then after a few difficult races as well, but now looking quite strong out there, especially in these conditions as well. Then, which is not an easy feat, I suppose you could say. Reflection, of course, got 18 seconds of penalty, so that will demote him down the order a bit. But of course, there's quite a few penalties for the drivers behind him as well. So it is not all doom and gloom just yet. Then I think we might still finish in the points pen positions as well. Then same for Ekpaz. Then he'll get promoted up the order. Then same for Serious Mushroom. Then he'll get himself promoted up the order as well. Then Fast picks up another penalty. Then 30 seconds now for half. Unfortunately for the Alpine driver. Then here's the other Alpine driver. Then it's Vessia. Then lap 63. The final lap has commenced. And here comes Vessia then on the attack. Then Reflection in P4. And he is on the charge. And here comes Reflection then as well. Then here he comes then with some extra battery power. Then down the main straight. Then he's got himself past the Alpine. I think, yes, he has. Into the first chicane, then we go, and Reflection up into P3. Then of course on track P3. Of course, penalty situations will be coming back to bite them, I think, but we'll have to wait and see then as we cross the checkered flag, cross the checkered line, I should say. We'll go with Jenner then, who's coming down the hill towards Aqua Minerale for the final time here, and he has had a brilliant race indeed. There was challenging in the dry conditions then, was actually fighting then for the race lead. He got himself started on the hard compound tyres and then dropped back a bit on the first couple of laps then, but got himself back through very quickly indeed, and was challenging very early on then on the hard compound tyres compared to those on the medium compound tyres as well then. Switched on to some medium compound tyres and now onto the intermediate compound tyres for the final stint of the race under these horrible conditions indeed as well. Then through the first Ravazza, through the second Ravazza then for the final time then for Jenner. Then he's going to cross the line to take the checkered flag, to take the victory here in Imola for the 100% League round 5 then. And there is the Mercedes then. He's oh dear, he's clouted the wall then, but what a win for Jenner then. A fantastic result then for the Mercedes driver as well then. Brilliant stuff indeed for Jenner and for Mercedes as they are looking strong here in Imola as well then. Great stuff then for the race winner then of Jenner then. Mumford then P2. Here come the position changes. Vessia P3, Kiki P4, Legend P5, Reflection P16, Gordo P7. No, we have Ekpaz P5, Mushroom P6, Legend P7, Reflection P8, Stickers Muck P9, Gordo P10, Farf in P11. Coop will come across the line then to finish, I think, P12, but of course, penalty permitting, he might even jump up the order as well. No, P12 for Coop then. Goodness me, Hungry Styles then next across the line. Then he will be finishing the race then in P14 or whatever it was. Gordo said he's fuming with penalties as well. That I think everyone is fuming with the penalties out there, but Gordo I think still got some points under his belt. Then Reflection driver of the day in the game. We haven't got a vote for the driver of the day in the comment section, so we'll go with that one. Reflection then, a fantastic race indeed then. And there is your podium sitter then. Jenner then takes the crown, then he takes the victory here in Imola. Then Mumford in P2 and Vessia, sorry, P3 in the end as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed then for those three drivers then celebrating on the top step of the podium here for the Imola Grand Prix. And Mushroom said it's pant by me, but again P6 then, of course, minimising the penalties, has got him a good result once again then from McLaren. Unfortunately, Ginger Age then was disqualified, but he had too many penalties. But he got himself, did get himself some points last week. Reflection then P8 in the end, and with the fastest lap as well. Then Jenner then is your race winner here in Imola. Then fantastic stuff indeed from Jenner. Then Mumford P2, Vessia rounds off the podium then for the Alpine team. Great stuff indeed from Vessia. Kiki P4, Ekpaz P5, Serious Mushroom P6, then Legend P7, then Reflection P8 with fastest lap. Then Sickers Muck P9, Gordo rounds off the top 10. Farf in P11, then Coop P12, Hungry Stars P13. And unfortunately, Vintage, Camaro, Young Lights, Moomin, Ginger Age, and Dark Shadow did not finish this Grand Prix. Cracking stuff indeed. Then thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We are going straight to bed now for me. Anyway, so that is that done and dusted. Then unfortunately no interviews tonight. Then we'll have to jump off and get ourselves showered and sleeping. But fantastic stuff indeed. Then for all the drivers then who got themselves to the checkered flag. Then brilliant stuff indeed. We're going to be in Canada next week, so stay tuned for that. Then we'll be jumping over to the other side of the pond once again. Then for Canada as well. Then fantastic stuff from all the drivers then who got themselves to the checkered flag. Then and we will see you, of course, here in Imola then for gold on Sunday, then silver on Monday and bronze on Tuesday. Then see you very soon.